Chapter 52. Zhu Yi asked solemnly, "May I ask, Taoist priest, in this world, is reason the most important or power the most important? Without power, your reason cannot be upheld. Just having power without reason is nothing but violence to bully the weak." Lin Feng smiled calmly. "What is the most important in this world? Those with power speak reason, and this reason is the most important." Zhu Yi's eyes exploded with a shocking look. "That's right. If I had the power of Taoist priest, I would definitely dare to argue in front of my father. What is the most important in this world? What is the most important reason? Father and son can argue with each other, even the emperor and his subjects can argue with each other. If the emperor makes a big mistake, he will admonish him. If he repeatedly refuses to listen, he will change his position. My father's submission to reason deviates from the original meaning of a scholar. However, I don't have the strength to truss a chicken. How can I win against him with these reasons? If the emperor makes a big mistake, a scholar has to admonish him. If the emperor repeatedly refuses to listen and stubbornly goes his own way, then you have to abdicate. This is the principle of a scholar. Unfortunately, without power, I can't uphold these reasons. Just as Master said, having power and reason is the right way." After saying this, Zhu Yi lifted the hem of his robe, knelt on the ground and kowtowed heavily. "Master, please accept me. Zhu Yi is willing to cultivate under Master, to learn Tao and to learn reason." Lin Feng secretly let out a long sigh. The third one, all the hard work these days is worth it. After officially accepting Zhu Yi as a disciple, a third column of information appeared in the disciple system, belonging to Zhu Yi. Name: Zhu Yi. Age: 15 years and 3 months. Current cultivation: guiding Qi into the body, about to enter Qi. Disciple level 1. Potential attribute: bone aptitude 7, comprehension 9, will 8, luck 10. Recommended education plan: it is recommended to cultivate Thunder Tao techniques or Buddhist Tao technique. As for divine abilities, it is recommended to focus on Dharma spells as the main direction of development. Lin Feng thought about it. Even though he has the Ksitigarbha Sutra and the Art of Akala, these two top Buddhist Tao techniques, he still decided to teach Zhu Yi the 9 Heavens Thunder technique. There was no other reason than that he has more lightning attribute spells and techniques in his possession. Matching them with the 9 Heavens Thunder technique would be more beneficial in actual combat. "This is your eldest senior brother, Xiao Yan. He is also my current head disciple." Lin Feng pointed at Xiao Yan, then pointed at Tiny Tot. "This is your junior brother Shi Tianhao. Originally, he was the first disciple I accepted, but he was very lazy and volunteered to be my junior." Zhu Yi looked at Xiao Yan and his eyes flashed. He bowed and said, "Zhu Yi greets eldest senior brother." Xiao Yan used his arms as a pillow behind his head and said with a lazy smile, "No need to be so courteous. We are fellow disciples, no need to be so courteous." Zhu Yi faintly smiled and still very solemnly cupped his hands towards Tiny Tot. After a pause he said, "Junior brother Tianhao." Tiny Tot grinned and bowed towards him. "Shi Tianhao greets second senior brother." Zhu Yi gave him a deep look and didn't say anything else. He thought in his heart, "People say that there is no beginning or end to learning, those who have reached first come first. Compared to this Tiny Tot, I'm too far off. I must work hard to catch up and then surpass him. Only then can I be a role model for senior brother." After the three of them finished their greetings, Lin Feng finally opened his mouth and said, "Master travels the world and won't stay in Zhou Dynasty for long. I also don't have any plans to stay in Tianjing City for long. What plans do you have? If you want to stay in Zhou Dynasty, Master can pass down Tao techniques to you and come back to see you regularly." Zhu Yi seriously pondered for a moment and replied, "The ancients say that reading 10,000 books is not as good as walking 10,000 miles. Disciple is willing to follow Master to travel the world." After a pause he lightly said, "Disciple doesn't plan on participating in this year's imperial examinations. But 3 years later, I hope Master will allow disciple to return to Tianjing City to participate in the imperial examinations. Lin Feng smiled, knowing that other than participating in the imperial examinations to fulfill his wish, Zhu Yi also has the thought of returning to his hometown to argue with his father, the Marquis of Xuanji. Entering my sect, you only need to follow the rules of my sect. Master will never restrict your personal freedom. Lin Feng immediately smiled and said, It's still the same words, you have to rely on yourself to walk your own path, make your own decisions on your own matters. Zhu Yi smiled and said, Disciple understands. Lin Feng immediately brought his 3 disciples and left the Black Cloud underground palace. Standing at the entrance of the underground palace, Lin Feng felt regret in his heart. I have the Black Cloud flag, this underground palace is like my own home. If there wasn't the Nether Blood River causing trouble, it could actually be my base of operations. A pity, truly a pity. Just like the previous 2 times, taking in Zhu Yi as a disciple, the reward the system gave was also a chance to draw and 500 exchange points. Lin Feng still saved up the exchange points. He already had his eyes on a good item in the exchange system, it's just that it's not cheap, so he needs to save up a bit more money. Anyways, after robbing Hui Ku and those 6 cultivators of the house of the Marquis, Lin Feng obtained a lot of pills that help with cultivation. Even though he added Zhu Yi's mouth now, it's still enough. Lin Feng entered the lottery system. Let's see if I can get anything good from the lottery this time. This time, Lin Feng hopes to get a martial path ability. Zhu Yi is suitable for cultivating spells, Cloud Dragon Escape and 9 Heaven Thunder Summoning are enough for him to learn for a while. As for Xiao Yan, who is suitable for dual cultivating spells and martial arts, up until now Lin Feng still hasn't truly taught him a type of martial path, not to mention Xiao Yan, who is suitable for cultivating the martial path. Old Vulture's White Bone Hammer is actually a refinement of a martial path ability called Continuous Bone Hammer. The old man himself is good at the martial path, but he's old and his Dao realm is unable to increase. His qi and blood are gradually declining. That's why he used his own martial path to refine this magic item White Bone Hammer to defend against enemies. Continuous Bone Hammer is actually not bad, but taking into account the art of Akala that everyone knows comes from the Great Thunder Temple, if Lin Feng always teaches some other sect's abilities and spells to his disciples, it will inevitably make them have second thoughts. That's why Lin Feng still hopes to get a martial path ability whose origin is not so clear, but whose power is also passable. If he can't get it from the lottery, Lin Feng will probably have to reluctantly spend his exchange points to exchange for a martial path from the system. Green Wave Palm? Not bad, but it doesn't have much potential. Thunderous Arhat Fist? The martial path that the monks of the Great Thunder Temple build their foundation. Not good, not to mention the low grade, everyone knows that it's the martial path of the Great Thunder Temple. Very unlucky, the 3 abilities that the roulette system got are all spells. The 3 abilities that the die system got are all martial paths. Unfortunately, they're either not strong enough, or they're the signature martial paths of other sects. People can recognize them at a glance. The third one? Divine Vulture Palm. Thousands of years ago, the unaffiliated cultivator Master Vulture became famous as a martial path, but after Master Vulture passed away, it's been lost. This is not bad. At least his luck isn't too bad. Looking at the description of the third martial path, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Divine Vulture Palm is placed in the 8th grid, which means that if Lin Feng rolls the die, he has to roll an 8 pips to get this martial path. The number is very auspicious, it's you. With a thought from Lin Feng, the 3 dice immediately started spinning. Just like last time, the 3 dice still didn't stop at the same time, but stopped one after another. Very soon, the first die stopped. A big 6 was pointed upwards. Lin Feng's heart immediately turned cold. Just the first die already had a 6 pips, If he wants to get the 8 pips divine vulture palm, then he needs to roll the last 2 dice to only have a 1. A little more won't do, the probability is really too low. The second die soon stopped too. It was exactly a 1. Lin Feng was greatly relieved. Staring at the last die, he thought to himself, just one. At the same time, he glanced at the items waiting to be selected. The first 2 dice had a total of 7 pips, so after the last die landed, the total number of pips that could appear would be 8 to 13. Number 8, Divine Vulture Palm. Number 9, there was nothing. Number 10, a green panacea for detoxification. Number 11, a golden thunder talisman that can only be used once and is not bad. Number 12, a mysterious box with a question mark. Number 13, Wait, mysterious chest? Lin Feng slightly froze. Just as he was thinking about it, he saw that the third die had already landed. Lin Feng swallowed and looked at it, only to discover that the face of the third die was a 5. 6 plus 1 plus 5, 12. Lin Feng looked at the mysterious chest that had already appeared in front of him, his heart filled with a myriad of emotions. Speaking of which, his luck could not be considered bad, a total of 4 draws, and 2 of them were special prizes. But who knew what would come out of the box? What Lin Feng urgently needed now was a reliable martial path, supernatural power. With a perturbed heart, Lin Feng opened the box, and 3 light spots flew out. Lin Feng was stunned, then he saw the first light spot fly in front of him. When the light faded, a fiery red elixir landed in Lin Feng's palm. 9 turns infernal soul pill, condensed from the essence of heaven and earth fire. It is hot but not hot, and has a miraculous effect in treating frostbite. Lin Feng sighed, I have no use for this thing. Forget it, I'll keep it for now, just in case. He had drawn a special prize, and he hoped that it would not be something completely useless to him. Lin Feng could not help but feel a little depressed. After keeping the 9 turns infernal soul pill, the second light spot landed in front of him, and the light faded, revealing its original appearance. Martial path, peerless flying sword? 1,000 years ago, the peerless sword sage secretly passed down the sword Dao. The peerless sword sage used this sword Dao to challenge Shushan and retreated unscathed. Since the peerless sword sage fell, it has been lost? This was a martial path supernatural power that was even more powerful than the vulture divine palm. Looking at the sword manual of the peerless flying sword in front of him, the depression in Lin Feng's heart was suddenly swept away, and he just wanted to look up to the sky and laugh 3 times. Lin Feng put away the sword manual with a smile, then stared at the third light spot, and his heart was blooming with joy. This time the special prize is awesome. It seems to be a 3-in-1 big gift bag, and I got 3 things at once. I wonder what the third thing is? The light spot landed in Lin Feng's palm, and the light faded. When Lin Feng saw it clearly, he was suddenly stunned. He blinked his eyes, and for a moment, he did not know what to say. Langxian Jade Leaf, the leaf of the Langxian Jade Tree, one of the 4 great spiritual divine trees in the world. Lin Feng was somewhat at a loss. What do I want this thing for? Langxian Jade Tree, Langxian Jade Tree. Isn't this the main body of that demoness Long Yi? You have no use for this thing, why don't you give it to me, okay? While Lin Feng was pondering, an extremely lazy voice suddenly sounded in the bottom of his heart. That was a woman's voice. It was not melodious and crisp, but rather deep and hoarse. But it possessed a peculiar charm, extremely alluring, causing people to willingly sink into a bottomless abyss. But at this moment Lin Feng's entire body was cold. His face had an expression like he had seen a ghost, and he almost screamed out, "You are Long Yi?" Chapter 53. You have no use for this jade leaf. Why don't you give it to me? Long Ye's tone was soft and soothing, as if whispering sweet nothings beside her lover's ear, throwing a tantrum and acting spoiled. But when Lin Feng heard her voice, his back broke out in cold sweat, only feeling his hands and feet turn ice cold. He immediately determined that the voice actually came from his northern aurora sword. "Don't tell me this which has always been attached to my sword? Ever since that time in Stone Village half a year ago, it's already—" Countless thoughts flashed through Lin Feng's mind, forcing himself to calm down, slowly opening his mouth and saying, "You're finally willing to speak?" As soon as the words left his mouth, only then did Lin Feng discover that even his voice was a bit hoarse. But he still tried his best to act as if nothing had happened, as if he already knew that Long Yi had always been hiding right under his nose. Lin Feng's consciousness entered the Northern Aurora sword, a white light flashed past and a figure instantly appeared in his mind. A head of long hair draped over her shoulders, bare feet, clothes whiter than snow, a face so beautiful it didn't seem human, it's precisely Long Yi. Of all the beauty Lin Feng has seen in his life, only Yan Mingyue can compare to her. This pair of old enemies can really be called a pair of peerless beauties. It's a pity that right now Lin Feng completely doesn't have the mood to appreciate beauties. He still remembers that back then, in order to save Xiao Budian, he lured Murong Yenran and the others to fight with Long Yi, and then he reaped the benefits, using a Northern Aurora divine light to destroy this Long Ye's Dharma body. At that time Long Ye's sentence, "I'll remember you," was still ringing in his ears, making Lin Feng shudder. Long Yi lightly laughed. "I really can't see through you. Hey, just what level of cultivation do you have?" Lin Feng took a deep breath and said, "Back then I was merciful and spared your life. Looks like you still haven't learned your lesson." Long Yi smiled and said, "I've learned my lesson, that's why I haven't made a move to kill you even now." Lin Feng felt a chill in his heart, then he heard Long Yi continue, "Because I really can't see through you. I think my cultivation is still passable, even though I'm heavily injured now. My eyesight is still there, but I can't see through you. Let's say your cultivation level is high. You usually use your escape technique to move around, but you're only at the qi condensation stage. You never make a move yourself and only use this foundation establishment stage magic sword to fight against your enemies. You're also only at the qi condensation stage when arranging formations." Long Yi said softly, "Could it be that you really only have qi condensation stage cultivation and only possess some kind of treasure that can block off other people's detection?" "Really, there were a few times when I couldn't help but want to do it. But let's say that your cultivation is low, you can repeatedly toy with the cultivators of the golden elixir period. Dealing with them is like dealing with children." Long Yi sighed lightly. "So, I really can't see through you." Lin Feng secretly clenched his fists, pretending to be calm, saying indifferently, "How can you see through my depth?" Silently looking at Lin Feng, Long Yi suddenly broke into a smile, like the clouds breaking through the moon, stunning all living beings. "So, I've changed my mind, I won't find trouble with you anymore, I'll make a deal with you." Lin Feng quickly calculated in his mind, seeing if he could get rid of this witch and thoroughly eliminate any future troubles. While calculating in his heart, Lin Feng casually responded, "A deal. I have the Langxian jade leaf that you want, what can you give me?" Long Yi combed the hair by her ear, the corners of her mouth revealing a slight smile. "You seem to be looking for a disciple that suits your heart? HM? Killing intent surged in Lin Feng's heart, ringing the highest level of alarm. The system is his greatest secret, it can't be known by anyone. Because the setting of this unlucky system is very deceptive. If Lin Feng can't complete the main mission, he will be directly erased by the system. If by any chance someone finds out about the contents of his mission and then tries to trip him up, Lin Feng really will have no path to heaven and no door to hell. The 24 relics and the Black Cloud flag are all in place. Lin Feng is ready to act at any time. On the surface, he still acted as if nothing had happened. Seeing an outstanding talent, anyone would be moved. I'm naturally no exception. Long Yi said, "Oh? But I noticed that the disciples you take in are often talents that were previously buried. Bystanders are unable to discover their uniqueness, but you have discerning eyes. Lin Feng laughed dryly, not replying, but his killing intent was already almost unconcealable. But he heard Long Yi continue, "Seeing you take in disciples, I know that you're not a small person. You definitely have plans to establish a sect? No matter if it's you humans or us demons, cultivation requires a suitable blessed land and heavenly abode. If you want to establish a sect, you need a suitable place to establish your sect. I just happen to know of a place. It's still ownerless right now. Perhaps you need it?" The mana that Lin Feng had already started circulating was forcibly stopped. He was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. After a good while, Lin Feng finally caught his breath and asked unhappily, "Where is it?" Long Yi smiled and said, "You've agreed to my deal?" Lin Feng calmed his heart and said calmly, "How do I know if what you said is true or false? You and I had a few dirty conflicts before. You don't have the capital to make me trust you." Long Yi rolled her eyes at him, her expression infinitely charming, as if she was acting spoiled to her lover. If you want to increase the price, then just say it." Lin Feng cried out that he couldn't take it anymore, finally stabilizing his mind with great difficulty. Long Yi said, "Fine, I'll add one more thing. I can give this thing to you first, then you give me the leaf, and I'll tell you where the heavenly abode is. You can go and verify it yourself. No matter what you do, you won't lose out. Are you satisfied like this?" Lin Feng's brows furrowed slightly. "What thing?" Long Yi raised her hand. A small and exquisite stone flute appeared in her white palm. The stone flute exuded a vast and distant aura. Lin Feng's pupils slightly contracted, saying in his heart, "This aura, I seem to have come into contact with it somewhere before. Where? Yes, this is the aura of Taishu Temple's Tao technique. I've felt it on Yan Mingyue before. This stone flute is related to Taishu Temple." Thinking of this, the conversation he had with Yan Mingyue that day immediately surfaced in Lin Feng's mind. Yan Mingyue once mentioned that Long Yi has an item in her hands. No matter if it's for herself or for Taishu Temple, she has to find a way to get it back. Yan Mingyue even planned to use this item as the capital for her to return to Taishu Temple and establish herself. Could it be that it's referring to this stone flute? Lin Feng raised his head to look at Long Yi, not saying anything. But from his gaze, Long Yi already understood his doubts, so she nodded. "That's right, this is the item that Yan Mingyue is looking for. It's just that I'm also not clear on just what importance this item has to her and Taishu Temple." She tilted her head, looking at Lin Feng with a somewhat mischievous expression. "This deal, are you willing to do it?" Lin Feng did not say anything, seemingly weighing in his heart. But actually right now his heart is in turmoil, countless thoughts flashing through. This which clearly bears a grudge against me that day, why can she act as if nothing happened now? There's no way Lin Feng would believe that Long Yi is magnanimous and won't care about past grudges. Other than not being able to figure out Lin Feng's true strength, and thus having misgivings, Long Yi should have other plans. Leaving Lin Feng behind, for her, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Where are the advantages? There's only one possibility, and that is to target Yan Mingyue, to target Taishu Temple. A layer of understanding arose in Lin Feng's heart. His and Yan Mingyue's previous probing and continuous secret battles all fell into Long Ye's eyes. From Long Ye's point of view, leaving him behind is leaving behind a possibility of restraining Yan Mingyue. "I want to establish the world's #1 sect and become the #1 founder in history. There will inevitably be conflict with the existing large sects, and Taishu Temple will bear the brunt." Lin Feng smiled bitterly in his heart. This which might not know this, but she undoubtedly made the correct choice. Thinking up to here, a flash of inspiration flashed through Lin Feng's mind. Yan Mingyue clearly knew that he secretly learned the Heaven Cage sigil but did not flare up. Other than not being able to see through the depth of his strength, isn't it also because he has enmity with Long Yi? At that time Lin Feng hoped that Yan Mingyue would deal with Long Yi. Yan Mingyue might have the same intentions, wanting to borrow Lin Feng to deal with Long Yi. Perhaps Yan Mingyue really wants to get back the stone flute in Long Ye's hands, but she might not fight to the death with Long Yi. On one hand, she's worried that both sides will suffer or even perish together again. On the other hand, she very likely will leave Long Yi behind to restrain Lin Feng in turn. These two women really aren't easy to deal with. But Ji isn't a vegetarian either. Calculating in his heart, Lin Feng made up his mind. Chapter 54. What will you do after obtaining the jade leaf of Langxian? Even though he already has an idea in his heart, Lin Feng still opened his mouth to ask. Yan Mingyue wants to return to Taishu Temple. I naturally also have a place I want to return to. Long Yi smiled faintly. I already said, I don't have any thoughts of finding trouble with you. For your own good, it's best if you don't. Lin Feng said lightly. I accept your deal, we have a deal. Lin Feng believes that if Long Yi obtains the jade leaf of Langxian, she will definitely recover her strength by a large margin. After all, her original body is a jade tree of Langxian. After completing this deal, Lin Feng can also use Long Yi to restrain Yan Mingyue. Lin Feng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The three of them actually fell into this kind of strange and painful chain of events. Everyone hopes that the opponent in front of them will restrain and deal with the third person. Playing with the stone flute in his hand, Lin Feng thoughtfully looked at Long Ye's departing back figure. In a sense, Long Yi is equivalent to throwing a hot potato to Lin Feng. If used properly, Lin Feng can use this stone flute to obtain enough benefits from Taishu Temple. But conversely, it can also bring disaster to Lin Feng. If the number one sacred land in the world throws aside all pretense of cordiality and doesn't want to forcefully snatch something, no one in the world would dare say that they can definitely protect it. Lin Feng pondered in his heart, the conflict between Yan Mingyue and the new Taoist disciple of Taishu Temple, maybe it's a condition that he can use? Come to think of it, just what is the use of this stone flute? Why would Taishu Temple care so much about this little thing? Lin Feng inwardly scratched his head. He couldn't feel any strong mana activation from the stone flute. This little thing looks so ordinary. Lin Feng shook his head and withdrew his thoughts. The matter of the cave can also be put aside for later. Right now the most important thing is still the fourth disciple. Finally, this is the last one. I hope it can be completed smoothly. It will definitely be successful, right? Great Zhou capital city, Tianjing, Marquis of Xuanji's residence in the southeast of the city. A skinny old man stood in the outer courtyard. The old man held a piece of talisman paper in his hand. Two words were clearly printed on the talisman paper. One was Buddha and the other was you. The skinny old man frowned. Huang San failed, and it has something to do with the remnants of the Buddhist sect and the great Qin dynasty's Yu clan? There was a circle of cultivators from the house of the Marquis standing in the surroundings, but in front of this old man, they were all respectful and didn't make a sound, for fear of disturbing the old man's thoughts. This skinny old man is the second steward of the house of the Marquis of Xuanji. People call him Second Mr. Tao. The fatty Huang San was sinister like a snake, and there were even people who dared to call him a servant behind his back. But Tao Er, even a direct descendant of the Zhu clan, had to respectfully address him as Mr. Er when they saw him. There was no other reason. It was because this old man who looked so thin and shriveled that even a gust of wind could blow him over was strong enough. The Marquis of Xuanji went on expeditions everywhere. This skinny old man would always follow by his side, fighting in battle, scheming and assassinating who knows how many times. The number of opponents that died by his hands, just the number of cultivators in the golden elixir period already exceeds 10-digit. In front of him, Huang San is just a child. A moment later, Second Mr. Tao Er put away the talisman paper in his hand, turning around and walking towards the main house in the back. When the guard saw him, he hurriedly saluted. Second Mr. Second Mr. Tao ere nodded his head. I want to see the Marquis, the matter is very urgent. The old man entered the main house in the back, and came out a moment later. Facing the crowd of cultivators of the house of the Marquis waiting for him, Second Mr. Tao ere slowly opened his mouth, but his words were filled with killing intent. 3 things. First, gather people and head to the place where Huang San and the others disappeared. Search inch by inch, you must find clues. Second, capture all the members of the Society of the Strong Gale and the remnants of the Great Thunder Temple within the borders of the Zhou dynasty. Don't let a single one go. Third, follow me to the base of the Qin diplomatic group and ask the Yu family about this matter. Second Mr. Tao ere slowly said, every word was heavy. The Marquis's original words were only 2 words, investigate thoroughly. 1 day later in Tianjing City, a large house in the west of the city. This is where the diplomatic group of the Qin dynasty live. In the west courtyard, after seeing off Second Mr. Tao heir who came to visit, a middle-aged man wearing a sapphire blue gown silently sat on a chair. A young man in front of him said angrily, Zhu Hongwu is too arrogant, his subordinates are missing and he's actually blaming it on our Yu family. The blue-clothed middle-aged man glanced at him. Tell me, what should we do? The young man replied without even thinking, What should we do? Do nothing. What does this have to do with us? It's obvious that someone is framing us. The blue-clothed middle-aged man looked at him and sighed in disappointment. The young man immediately knew that he answered incorrectly and hurriedly lowered his head. The blue-clothed middle-aged man's expression was calm, but the words he said were filled with killing intent. Someone is framing our Yu family, we do nothing and watch as they shift the blame and splash dirty water on us? The young man came to his senses. What do you mean? The blue-clothed middle-aged man snorted. Whoever dares to offend our Yu family will have to pay the price. He looked at the young man. I'll leave this matter to you. The house of the Marquis of Xuanji will investigate them, we'll investigate ours. I'd like to see who dares to mess with our Yu family. The young man hesitated for a moment. But we're after all on a diplomatic mission to the Zhou dynasty, this isn't our territory and we don't have enough manpower. The blue-clothed middle-aged man said lightly, Just contact the main family. His gaze was a bit deep. Recently it's really been troubled times. The Shi family's side isn't peaceful either. I heard that someone wants to harm Shi Tianyi. At this time we can't panic, but even more so we can't do nothing. Otherwise, the opponent will instead swarm over. Near the Black Cloud underground palace, a gray-clothed man stood in an old forest deep in the mountains, wearing a large bamboo hat that covered his face. There's the aura of a Saraira here. Hui Ku appeared here before and even fought with someone. The gray-clothed man silently sensed the changes in the surrounding spirit energy. Good, the Saraira wasn't damaged. Hui Ku, you evil creature that deceived your masters and destroyed your ancestors, you actually dare to desecrate the remains of your seniors. I will definitely take back the Saraira and let the souls of the masters rest in peace. And you evil creature that desecrates the elders, I will definitely help you. There were countless beasts that smelled the aura of a living person and all gathered towards the gray-clothed man. The gray-clothed man took off his bamboo hat, revealing a shiny bald head. The divine light in his eyes exploded. When the beasts came into contact with his gaze, they all retreated in fright. Some of the weaker ones were actually scared to the point of pissing and defecating, falling limply onto the ground. The gray-clothed monk's eyelids drooped, the divine light receding, and he became ordinary again. Putting on his bamboo hat, his figure flashed and he already disappeared into the vast sea of trees. The battle at the Black Cloud underground palace caused a commotion in all directions. Lin Feng did not know about this. He did not linger in the Black Cloud underground palace and instead directly set off with his 3 disciples. He did not know if he had used up all his luck before, but along the way, he actually did not encounter a 4th person that met the requirements for the land. Don't tell me I have to turn around and find that little girl Xiao Zhener? Lin Feng felt depressed. He had crossed half of the Great Zhou dynasty's territory and passed through the Great Qin dynasty's territory, but he still did not obtain anything. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, there was only 1 month left from the 1-year time limit. Right now, the master and disciples were in the Great Qin dynasty's southern border. Although Lin Feng was anxious, he still did not show it in front of his 3 disciples. The master and disciples hurried along while cultivating. On this day, Zhu Yi's cultivation broke through a bottleneck, and he was about to raise his realm. Lin Feng thought about it and left behind Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian to protect Zhu Yi. He himself raised the black cloud flag and walked around. Lightly waving the flag, black light flowed, and Lin Feng broke through the void, flying forward. While flying in the void, a dazzling light suddenly lit up in front of Lin Feng's eyes. Where the light disappeared, the surrounding fog was hazy, as if chaos was surging, everything looked blurry. Lin Feng was shocked. What's going on? The black cloud flag broke through the void and actually sent me to an alternate dimension? Chapter 55. In a flash of light, Lin Feng rode the black cloud flag and actually charged into an alternate dimension. The space was shrouded in mist, everything was chaotic and indistinct. The mist dissipated, and what entered his eyes was actually an endless void, appearing desolate and distant. In the darkness there were flashes of light from time to time, but who knows how far away it was from Lin Feng. Lin Feng was bewildered. Just what is this place? While he was bewildered, suddenly a vast mana aura pervaded the surroundings and continuously expanded. The void suddenly ruptured. Lin Feng's eyes were once again filled with a blinding light. When his vision returned to normal, he had already returned to the heaven primal world, and looking at his position, he was still on the flight path just now. I was just accidentally swept into that void? Lin Feng pondered. Turning his head, he suddenly saw a face. This is a tall and big old man with a wide face and big ears, looking rather dignified. He was currently staring at Lin Feng and sizing him up, his expression extremely perplexed. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat, thinking of the vast mana fluctuations he felt in that void. No matter if it is the Blaze Sword Sect's Elderly or the Mount Shu Sword Sect's Lu Yang, even though their mana is vigorous and fierce, but compared to this tall and big old man in front of him, they are not worth mentioning. Lin Feng had a guess in his heart, but he didn't even dare to continue thinking about it, because that would make him completely lose his courage. At this time the tall and big old man opened his mouth to speak, his voice like rolling thunder. I am Xiandao Sect's Pu Beizi. Who are you? Xiandao Sect? Lin Feng has no impression in his mind. Only after checking the system did he find out that this is a sect in the southern border of the Great Qin dynasty. The strongest expert in the sect is at the Yuanying stage. Without a primordial spirit cultivator, this kind of sect naturally can't be compared to the 3 Holy Lands and the 9 Heavens Sword Alliance. But they have Yuanying stage monsters and can be considered a famous sect in the southern border of the Great Qin. The location of the sect is close to the southernmost star Luo ancient region of the Great Qin, that is the dividing line between the human world and the demon world. Lin Feng said as he looked through the information, a rogue cultivator from the mountains. Fellow Taoist can just call me Taoist Lin. Without waiting for Pu Beizi to speak again, Lin Feng took the initiative to ask, looking at fellow Taoist's appearance, you seem to be injured? Pu Beizi didn't answer and carefully looked at Lin Feng for a while, but still couldn't see the depth of Lin Feng's cultivation. Under the immense pressure from the other party, Lin Feng felt like he was a small boat in a stormy sea. One wave after another came crashing at him, threatening to swallow him up at any moment. Putting aside counterattacks, even if the other party didn't make a move, Lin Feng wouldn't be able to hold on for long with just the mental pressure alone. Luckily, Pu Beizi couldn't see through Lin Feng's cultivation even after a long time. Feeling worried, He withdrew his Li and Lin Feng felt much better. That's right, I was injured by someone in the void battlefield. But don't worry, I'll be able to recover after a period of seclusion. Pu Beizi's face faintly flashed with green air. It was obvious that the enemy had used Ice-type Li to invade his body. Lin Feng's heart moved slightly. Void battlefield? It seemed that the void world that he had entered before was the void battlefield. Lin Feng had heard of the void battlefield before. It was an independent space outside of the great heaven primordial world. It was alone in the sky and had a vast area. Although human powerful cultivators had always been exploring it, there were still many areas of the void battlefield that were still unknown. There were many rare cultivation resources in the great heaven primordial world in the void battlefield, but the space inside was turbulent and extremely unstable. It was very dangerous. Even if cultivators in the golden elixir period entered, they would most likely die. So normally, only powerful cultivators in the Yuanying or primordial soul stage would enter to search for treasures. Even so, the unknown dangers and mutual attacks caused many powerful cultivators to die in that part of the void battlefield. At the same time, Stone Village's old village chief had mentioned before that the little guy's birth father and grandfather frequently entered the void battlefield. It was to the extent that back then, it was precisely because his grandfather went missing in the void battlefield that his parents went to rescue him, causing the little guy to encounter a great disaster. This Xian Dao sect's ancestor, Pu Beizi, was clearly one of the people who entered the void battlefield and suffered a loss inside. Lin Feng said nonchalantly, "Void battlefield? Although there are risks, I believe that you have gained quite a lot." Pu Beizi snorted, "It's not just risk. The Hengyu sect ancestor who went in with me died inside. If it wasn't for you suddenly breaking in and disturbing the void, allowing me to take the opportunity to tear open a crack, I'm afraid this old man's life would have been lost inside." Lin Feng thought about it and took out the 9-turn infernal soul pill he got from the lottery. "It's fate that we met. I see that your injuries were caused by ice magic power. With your magic power you can heal yourself, but it will undoubtedly waste a lot of time. I happen to have a 9-turn infernal soul pill here. It's very effective in treating these kinds of injuries. I'll give it to you." Pu Beizi was very surprised. He didn't even need to take the pill. With just a glance, he knew that what Lin Feng said was true. He couldn't help but be confused. "Why are you giving it to me?" Although he said that, this old man was really overbearing. He grabbed the pill without any hesitation. Lin Feng smiled faintly. "I wanted to give it to you, so I gave it to you. Why are you asking so many questions?" Pu Beizi's eyes flashed and he laughed. "I'm too fussy. Okay, I'll owe you this favor. If you have time, you're welcome to visit my Xiandao sect at any time." Lin Feng smiled. "Let's talk about it when I have time." Then he turned and left. Pu Beizi was in a hurry to take the pill to treat his injuries, so he naturally didn't keep him. Although he didn't know how useful it would be, a pill that he couldn't use could form a good relationship with a Yuanying old monster. Lin Feng was still very happy. When he returned to where his 3 disciples were, the 3 of them were chatting happily. Lin Feng asked, "What are you talking about?" Xiao Budian smiled and said, "Master, we just heard about a strange thing. There's a sect called Hengyu sect nearby. A few days ago, they opened their doors to accept disciples. A little brother didn't pass the test and didn't join. In the end, he jumped off a cliff on Hengyu Mountain and wanted to commit suicide. He didn't succeed in committing suicide and was saved by people from Hengyu sect. I heard that they wanted to make an exception and accept him as an in-name disciple." At the side, Zhu Yi sighed. "He's quite persistent and has an unyielding personality. But in the end, he got what he wanted. At least he didn't suffer in vain." Xiao Yin shook his head. "If he enters the sect like this, so what if he becomes their disciple? The elders of the sect have no choice but to accept him in order to protect their reputation. They definitely won't teach him carefully. His fellow disciples will also laugh at him for committing suicide to enter the sect. Zhu Yi said, "Self-improvement is worth praising. I just hope that he can continue to persevere, otherwise the pressure will only get greater and greater." At first, Lin Feng was just listening to a story. But as he listened, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. This kid, why does he have the attitude of a good-for-nothing, the main character of a normal person? Lin Feng asked. You guys just said that the Hingyu sect has already taken him in? The three disciples nodded together. They just brought him back to the sect. Lin Feng didn't say anything more. He immediately brought the three of them to Hingyu sect. As he walked, he was worried. I must make it in time. If I'm a step late and miss it, who am I going to cry to? Chapter 56. Lin Feng arrived at Hengyu Mountain, but he was a step too late. All the new disciples were in the middle of the ceremony. The system sounded, target found, suitable to be the host's direct disciple. Lin Feng searched carefully and confirmed that the system was referring to a youngster at the end of the line. The youngster was small and skinny. He pursed his lips, and all the new disciples around him looked at him with disdain. A series of system notifications sounded in Lin Feng's ears. Talent system organized. Target number 5's information is as follows. Root bone 5, perceptive ability 10, will 10, fortune 8. Conclusion. Target's talent is lacking, but his potential is huge. Recommended to take him in and teach him carefully. He will definitely become a pillar of the sect. Lin Feng was dumbfounded. What did he see? He saw 2 full values. Out of the 4 attributes of this kid, 2 of them were full values of 10. Perceptive ability was the ability to comprehend cultivation technique. Xiao Budian and Xiao Zhener both had 8 in their perceptive ability. This meant that they could quickly understand anything they learned. Master only needed to teach them once and they would be able to understand it by themselves. Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi were even higher. Both had 9 in their perceptive ability. This meant that not only could they learn things quickly, they could also come up with new ideas. And what did 10 in perceptive ability mean? It meant that this kid could learn anything and could use his own perceptive ability to make up for the flaws in cultivation techniques and make them perfect. And what about the will of 10? This meant that this person's willpower was extremely strong, indomitable, and unyielding. No one, no matter what, could defeat him on a psychological level. There were billions of people in the heaven primal world. 1 out of 10 million geniuses was an astronomical number. But in the end, only a small number of them could become talent. The reason was that if one's will was not strong enough, it would be easy to waste their talent. 2 full-value attributes, coupled with 8 points of luck, made this kid's completely failing root bone not so dazzling. As the system concluded, his talent was lacking, but his potential was huge. Seeing that the apprenticeship ceremony was in progress, Lin Feng's mind raced. What should I do? Should I simply ruin this apprenticeship ceremony? This Hengyu sect is a large sect in the southern border that is on par with the Xian Dao sect. It's not weak. According to what Pu Beizi said, the Hengyu sect's Yuanying ancestor died in the void battlefield. Right now, the strongest expert here should be in the Golden Elixir period, but I don't know how many in the Golden Elixir period they have. This is the Hengyu sect's mountain. They have the geographical advantage. There was less than a month left until the time limit of the system's quest. Lin Feng's expression flickered, and it took him a lot of effort to calm himself down. Forget it, I'll just contact this kid secretly. What's his name again? Right, Wang Lin. Lin Feng watched as Wang Lin knelt before the Hengyu sect and heard the system's voice change. Target meets the criteria, but has already taken someone else as his master. Must remove the master-disciple relationship before he can become the host's direct disciple. Lin Feng's heart bled. Damn, it was just a day or two. If I had come here a day or two earlier, Wang Lin would have been rejected by the Hengyu sect and would have been mentally and physically hurt. If I had gone out and tricked him a bit, I would have been able to easily take him as my disciple. No matter how much he regretted it, Lin Feng calmed himself down and began to plan. Just as Xiao Yan had analyzed, if Wang Lin used this method to join the Hengyu sect, he would definitely be disliked by his teachers, looked down on by his peers, and not loved by his parents. His sense of belonging to the sect would not be very strong, so Lin Feng still had a chance. As a result, Lin Feng decided to hide in the Hengyu sect. He would not and did not need to enter those important places. He only needed to find the residence of an unnamed disciple like Wang Lin. The guards and restrictions of these places were extremely lax, so it was not difficult for Lin Feng. When Lin Feng arrived at Wang Lin's residence, he heard a few Hengyu sect disciples mocking Wang Lin. "People like you are a disgrace to our Hengyu sect. When it's time for the inner sect disciple assessment, why don't you try jumping off the cliff again? If you can jump into the inner sect again by suicide, then you'll have the ability." Wang Lin remained silent and let them mock him. The few of them cursed as they left the room. Only Wang Lin was left in the room. He let out a long breath, lowered his head, and muttered to himself, "Dad, Mom, I will definitely succeed. I want to become an immortal." Lin Feng smiled. His figure flashed, and he was already inside the room. He smiled and said, "In this kind of environment, you won't be able to become an immortal." Wang Lin was shocked and stared blankly at Lin Feng, who suddenly appeared. "Who are you?" Lin Feng gently waved his sleeve and didn't answer. Instead, he asked, "The path of cultivation is a long and bumpy road. There are not many beautiful scenes, but many thorns. Your talent is originally worse than ordinary people. If you don't work hard to catch up, how can you have any hope of success? But in a sect like this, you will only be assigned rough work like fetching water and chopping wood. They say you are a disciple, but you are actually a servant." Lin Feng calmly said, "Your starting point is low, and your speed is even slower. How will you continue on this road?" Wang Lin pursed his lips and looked at Lin Feng in his white robe. After a long time, he said, "Immortal Elder, what do you mean?" Lin Feng let out a light sigh. "I saw you when you were just born. Even though your talent is poor, but you and I are fated. At that time I already had the intention to take you as my disciple. I originally wanted to come back when you were 16, but I didn't think that you would already enter this Hengyu sect. If you are willing, you can leave the Hengyu sect and become my disciple." Lin Feng said emotionally, "I will definitely teach you with all my heart and teach you all my Dao techniques and abilities. I definitely won't be like this Hengyu sect and order you around like a servant and treat you lightly." At this point, Lin Feng chuckled. "As for my ability, if you want to see it, I will challenge this Hengyu sect in no time." Wang Lin looked at Lin Feng in shock. His eyes clearly became hot. His lips moved as if he wanted to say something, but he suddenly held it back. Not only that, but there was a hint of vigilance in his eyes as he looked at Lin Feng. His right hand subconsciously reached for his chest pocket. Lin Feng was slightly startled. Wang Lin was looking at him like he was guarding against a thief. This was unexpected to Lin Feng. His right hand is reaching for his chest pocket. It seems like he is trying to protect something? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. Oh no, this brat's luck is also 8 points. Could he have picked up some treasure? Wang Lin clearly thought that Lin Feng knew his secret and was here to cheat him of his treasure. Lin Feng wanted to cry but had no tears. It seemed that he was too late. This Wang Lin had clearly started to change for the better. His tyrannical aura was flourishing, and he was about to embark on his own heaven-defying path. Regardless of what kind of transcendental divine artifact it was or whether there was an old grandpa living in it, Wang Lin was about to hit rock bottom. Lin Feng was depressed in his heart, but his expression did not change. He looked at Wang Lin calmly. Do you think it's inconceivable? It's fine. You can decide for yourself. I will stay in the small town at the foot of the mountain for 20 days. If you have thought it through, you can come to the small town to find me. In a situation where Wang Lin was already on guard, he could not drag things out and pester him. Otherwise, it would trigger his rebellious mentality and make him even more wary. After Lin Feng finished speaking, he used the cloud dragon escape and disappeared without a trace. Wang Lin was stunned and felt a bit regretful. Was I too suspicious? After leaving Hengyu Mountain, Lin Feng's expression was gloomy. As he walked, he thought about how to pull a tooth out of the tiger's mouth and poach a disciple from the Hengyu sect. The spiritual qi in Hengyu Mountain is indeed denser than in our sect. It's more suitable for cultivation. A voice suddenly entered Lin Feng's ears. Lin Feng paused and hid himself. After a while, he saw two young men walking up Hengyu Mountain. Soon, this will be our Xiandao sect's territory. The other young man snorted. Our patriarch Pu Beizi returned safely, but their patriarch Hengyu sect died in the void battlefield. It's all fate. Only the strong can live in a good sect or cave abode. They will be moving soon. Looking at the two young men disappearing into the forest, Lin Feng frowned and thought silently. With this sudden rise, perhaps there would be a chance. After a while, a bright smile like the spring sun appeared on Lin Feng's face. It's mine. You can't run away. Chapter 57. Listening to their conversation, these two young cultivators should be disciples of the Xiandao sect that Pu Beizi was in. Not long after the two went up the mountain, they left. Then, some nosy disciples on Hengyu Mountain spread the news that the Xiandao sect would visit in a few days. The disciples of both sides would spar and test their cultivation. The Xiandao sect and the Hengyu sect were close to each other. For thousands of years, the two sects had helped each other defend against external forces and the invasion of the demon race. However, at the same time they also competed in secret. Their disciples often sparred with each other. But in this competition, Lin Feng clearly smelled a different aura. The Hengyu sect's Yuanying ancestor died in the void battlefield, while Pu Beizi of the Xiandao sect returned safely. The conditions of the Hengyu sect's cave abode were better. Without the Yuanying ancestor, the Hengyu sect was like a 3-year-old holding a gold brick. Because the Great Qin's southern border bordered the demon race's territory, the demon race and the human race were constantly fighting. As a result, countless caves with abundant spirit qi were abandoned. Thus, a cave abode that was good for cultivation was extremely precious. It was enough for everyone to fight for it. The Hengyu sect occupied the Hengyu Mountain, but they didn't have a Yuanying ancestor. This would probably cause all the sects in the southern border to covet it. The Xiandao sect, which was the closest and also the first to receive the news, would undoubtedly seize the initiative. In front of a good cave abode that could be the foundation of the sect for generations, past relationships were useless. Perhaps Pu Beizi didn't want to completely fall out with them and rob them. Thus, the Xiandao sect would most likely do something special in this spar. For example, add a little wager and bet on the opponent's sect? In just a short moment, countless thoughts flashed through Lin Feng's mind. He faintly felt that his 9-turn flame soul pill might have played a key role in the development of the situation. Without the 9-turn flame soul pill, the first thing Pu Beizi would do after returning from the void battlefield would definitely be to go into seclusion to heal. Only after his injuries were healed would he plot against the Hengyu sect. Who knew how long that would take? It could be a few days, a few months, or even decades. Lin Feng secretly sighed. One drink and one peck, there really is some mysterious fate. I originally only wanted to do a favor to that nascent soul stage-old monster, but I didn't think that in the end I would help myself. Whether or not they could help was still uncertain. The Hengyu sect disciples who spread the news only knew that the Xiandao sect would visit in a few days, but they didn't know the exact time. Lin Feng only had 1 month left. If the Xian Dao sect came in 2 or 3 months, it would be too late. We still have to prepare for both eventualities. Lin Feng controlled the black cloud flag and flew in the sky. If it really doesn't work, I'll just go and snatch him away. In any case, the Hengyu sect doesn't know Wang Lin's true potential and doesn't value him. If I snatch him away, they might not fight to the death. Returning to his 3 disciples, Lin Feng still had a calm appearance, but he was secretly speeding up his preparations. Late at night, Lin Feng sat cross-legged, slowly doing breathing exercises. The surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth quickly gathered around his body and was absorbed into Lin Feng's body, attacking the hidden acupuncture points. Once the acupuncture points were opened, the absorbed spiritual energy would be quickly converted into Fa Li and stored in the acupuncture point. The cultivator's Fa Li would obtain a great improvement. This was a painstaking process that required the cultivator to persevere in doing the boring breathing exercises, tempering the spiritual energy to break through the bottleneck of their body. The essence energy in the Heaven Thunder Moon Jade had already been used up, so Lin Feng could only follow the normal path. In the past few months, his cultivation speed had slowed down, not advancing by leaps and bounds like before. After successfully breaking through to the 11th layer of Qi Disciple, it stopped. Even though the speed was slow, Lin Feng was not anxious. He knew that he walked too fast before, and his foundation was unavoidably unstable. In the past few months, his speed had slowed down, but with his feet firmly planted on the ground, he could clearly feel that he was more proficient in using Fa Li. After a long period of painstaking work, Lin Feng had long since reached the peak of the 11th layer of Qi Disciple. Right now he was attacking the last acupuncture point. Under his unremitting efforts, the last acupuncture point was finally opened. The originally stagnant spiritual energy that had been deposited here immediately poured down like a flood, pouring into the dried-up acupuncture point, forming a huge whirlpool. The spiritual energy whirlpool became faster and faster, and the spiritual energy in the center continuously converted into Fa Li, nourishing Lin Feng's body. Different from before when he just filled up his Fa Li and then it was over, Lin Feng continuously swallowed many spirit-returning pills to recover his Fa Li, incessantly pushing the Fa Li in his body, forming a huge cycle in his entire body. The 12 acupuncture points were all opened, and the whole thing was connected as one. The Fa Li stored in the acupuncture points was no longer isolated as a pool of stagnant water like before, but turned into a surging river, constantly circulating in Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng let out a long breath, and suddenly let out a loud shout, like the roar of a tiger or dragon, lasting for a long time. The sound was enveloped by the black cloud flag's Fa Li barrier, and could not be transmitted outside the house, but Lin Feng was extremely happy. At this moment, all 12 floors were opened, and Lin Feng had reached the peak of the 12th layer of Qi Disciple, the peak of the Qi Disciple realm. Lin Feng pushed open the door, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. He thought to himself, in the cultivation of Tao, the higher the realm, the slower the progress. Although I have the help of the system to directly start from the 4th layer of Qi Disciple, in less than a year, I rush to the peak of the 12th layer of Qi Disciple. This speed should be considered fast, right? Could it be that brother is actually a genius? Just as he was thinking, his 3 disciples came up to him. Lin Feng smiled happily. How is your cultivation going? Is there anything you don't understand? Xiaoyan, I was just about to tell Master. Last night I saw the moon rise and the sun set, and the stars were shining. As I watched, I vaguely understood a kind of mysterious martial arts principle. After pondering for a night, I figured out a martial art. I was just about to ask Master to comment on it. In addition, the bottleneck of my Tao realm seems to have loosened because of this, and I think I can break through soon. The corner of Lin Feng's mouth twitched. You are already at the 9th layer of Qi Disciple. If you break through again, you will be at the 10th layer of Chi Disciple. It seems that you spent 4 years to reach the peak of Chi Disciple? Zhu Yi, Master, please allow me to report. Disciple was strolling in the mountains yesterday, and accidentally found a strange flower. It was overflowing with spiritual energy, and its whole body was surrounded by golden light. It did not seem to be an ordinary item. Disciple did not dare to make a decision on his own, so I specially brought it back for Master to deal with. Lin Feng took the spirit flower expressionlessly. Through the system's inquiry, he found out that this flower was called 3 Leaves Orchid, and it was the main ingredient of the bottleneck-breaking pill that helped people break through bottlenecks. Xiao Budian. Master, I broke through the 10th layer of Chi Disciple. I broke through without knowing it. I don't know what's going on either. Lin Feng was speechless. His line of sight tilted at a 45-degree angle to the sky, and he felt as if something seemed to flash past the corner of his eyes. Coach, I also want to break off the engagement. Coach, I also want to have a tiger father and a wolf father. Coach, is it too late for me to drink beast milk now? After dispiritedly sending away his 3 disciples, Lin Feng returned to his room. After sitting in a daze for a moment, he took out a ring from his bosom. It was precisely the ring that did not have the remnant soul of Taotai sealed in it. Before, Lin Feng was afraid of Taotai, so he constantly strengthened the heaven cage sigil to seal her. In the end, he almost forgot about this matter. When he had nothing to do, he would use the ring to practice the heaven cage sigil, and after practicing, he would forget about it. But now he changed his mind. If he really wanted to go to Hengyu sect to snatch people away, in case the Hengyu sect's golden elixir period big shots took it seriously, Lin Feng needed more trump cards. The current him had to unite and mobilize all useful forces. Chapter 58. Other than the Hengyu sect, Lin Feng was well aware that even though he didn't know if it was a divine artifact or an old grandpa, Wang Lin definitely had a golden thigh. This was also a competitor for Lin Feng's position. Lin Feng's consciousness entered into the ring. In the dark space, inside a cage formed by interweaving pillars of light sat a little girl. She had 2 pigtails, her face was as fair as a jade peck, snow white and cute. The little loli was bored to death sitting there, her mouth continuously muttering, I'm starving. The corner of Lin Feng's mouth twitched, this glutton. Seeing Lin Feng, the little loli wrinkled her cute little nose, snorted, and turned her face away from him. The little fellow's behavior was somewhat childish, but Lin Feng didn't dare to lower his guard. In a sense, this little lowly-looking vicious beast cub was no less threatening than a golden elixir period cultivator. Because right now, Lin Feng could only use the heaven cage sigil to trap her, but he couldn't completely kill her. There might be hope if he pushed the power of the 24 Heaven Arhat formation to the extreme, but he wasn't 100% sure. Although he was vigilant, Lin Feng still smiled on the surface. Little fellow, are you used to living here? Hearing Lin Feng's question, the Taotai cub's eyebrows immediately stood up, wanting to explode. After carefully looking at the surrounding light cage, she barely suppressed her anger and snorted heavily. I let you stay here for half a year, you naturally know what it feels like. Pausing, the little fellow still couldn't resist saying, I say, it's fine if you lock me up, but at least give me something to eat, I'm really hungry. Lin Feng thought to himself, if you devour magic power and spirit energy and recover your strength, I won't be able to lock you up. Although she had always been trapped by the heaven cage sigil, Lin Feng didn't torture or weaken her. Although she hadn't eaten, her original magic power hadn't dissipated, so it was completely impossible for her to starve to death. Perhaps her hunger was a real feeling, but it was completely due to the gluttonous instinct of a Taotai. Lin Feng said with a smile, We've known each other for a long time. What's your name? The little loli rolled her eyes. Why should I tell you? Lin Feng wasn't angry. He smiled and said, You tell me. There are benefits. For example, food. The Taotai cub's eyes immediately lit up, and it beamed with joy. Really? Really, but you have to tell the truth first. Lin Feng flicked the bars of the cage with his finger. His tone turned cold. If you dare to fool me, you know the consequences. The little loli shrunk her neck. Ever since I was young, my parents always called me Tunton. Swallow. Swallow? Lin Feng was amused and annoyed at the same time. This name was really lofty and it couldn't be more appropriate. Swallowing his saliva, he asked, "Is there anything to eat?" Lin Feng calculated for a bit. The heaven cage sigil he set up back then, when he was at Chi Disciple level 7, could already lock Tunton in its current strength. Then giving her a bit of sweetness first is not a bad idea. But he has to control the amount and ensure that he can still seal her at Chi Disciple level 12. After calculating, Lin Feng threw Tunton some pills. Tunton didn't stand on ceremony. Like its name, it opened its little mouth and swallowed it all in one gulp. After swallowing, it smacked its lips. The amount is too little, it's not even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. Lin Feng smiled. This is just the beginning. As long as you're obedient, you'll have something to eat. Tunton's eyes flashed, and it was instead not so enthusiastic. You human, what do you want to do? Lin Feng smiled. The sword light from that old man from the Blaze Sword sect last time tasted pretty good, right? Tunton was furious. You want to trick me into being your shield again? Then you can only blame yourself for having a small appetite and blaming me when you're stuffed. Lin Feng's expression did not change and his heart did not skip a beat. But don't worry, after that time I more or less know the limits of your appetite. When I find food for you again, I'll pay attention to control the amount. Lin Feng smiled like a granny wolf trying to trick Little Red Riding Hood. You have to think clearly. Other than this method, there's no other way to fill that little stomach of yours. Tunton's expression was dark and uncertain. Lin Feng's words were like the bewitching voice of hell. Think about it, how painful is it to go hungry? That panic in the heart is like someone is using a little claw to scratch it. Tunton shivered, feeling helpless in her heart. Right now she's the meat on the chopping block, completely controlled by Lin Feng. Okay. Tunton helplessly agreed. Humans die for wealth, Taotai dies for food. Hearing this, Lin Feng started laughing mischievously, like a weird uncle who successfully tricked a little loli into looking at goldfish. After dealing with Tunton, Lin Feng's mood became much better. I'm already at Chi Disciple level 12, next is Foundation Establishment. Foundation Establishment is to establish the Tao Foundation. Different from Chi Disciple, which is divided into 12 levels, Foundation Establishment is only divided into 3 levels. Normally it's called Foundation Establishment Early Stage, Foundation Establishment Middle Stage, and Foundation Establishment Late Stage. Sometimes it's also called Chi-Si, Spirit Platform and Pill Cauldron level based on their characteristic. Foundation Establishment Early Stage, cultivators open their Chi-Si. Their mana is as vast and majestic as the ocean, far surpassing Chi Disciple cultivators in terms of quantity. The cultivators from the house of the Marquis of Xuanji that Lin Feng met in the Black Cloud Underground Palace before, the 5 members of the 5 Elements sect led by the yellow-clothed old man and the purple-clothed middle-aged man were all Foundation Establishment Early Stage, Chi-Si stage cultivators. In the middle stage of the Foundation building realm, a cultivator used the boundless magic power in their Chi-Si to build a beer platform. This beer platform was the true foundation of a cultivator's Tao. Tall buildings were built from the ground up. In the future, when one formed a gold core or formed a nascent soul, they would all start from here. The Cellerita's Sword Sect Elder Yi Go, who brought Murong Yenran to the Shao family that day to break off the engagement, Elder Vulture, the white-clothed scholar and the black-clothed swordsman who besieged the monk Hui Ku are all Foundation Establishment Middle Stage, Spirit Platform Stage cultivators. As for Foundation Establishment Late Stage, they have to condense a pill cauldron on top of the spirit platform. Compared to spirit platform stage cultivators, pill cauldron stage cultivators only have slightly more condensed mana. The difference in battle strength isn't that great. But condensing a pill cauldron is the most important part of the foundation establishment stage. This is because the pill cauldron will directly decide the success or failure of a cultivator's core formation. Whether or not they can charge into the higher realms of the golden elixir period in the future all depends on the quality of the pill cauldron. The monk Hui Ku, who was killed by Lin Feng and had his Sarira stolen, was actually already foundation establishment late stage long ago, a pill cauldron stage cultivator. Because the art of Akala he cultivates is flawed, that's why he's been unable to form the golden elixir and break through to the next realm. This is also why he's so stubborn towards Xiao Yan. Even though the foundation establishment stage is only divided into 3 major realms, there are still strong and weak cultivators of the same level. This is because the spirit platform is divided into 9 grade. Grade 1 spirit platform is the best, Grade 9 spirit platform is the worst. Extending from this, from Grade 1 to Grade 9 pill cauldron, there is a huge gap between each grade, and an even bigger gap is after the golden elixir is formed in the future. The quality of the golden elixir will also differ, directly deciding a cultivator's cultivation potential in the future. Condensing a Grade 9 pill cauldron on top of a Grade 9 spirit platform, being able to refine the golden elixir is already an enormous fortune. As for the quality of the golden elixir and raising one's realm in the future, at that time one doesn't even need to think about it. But condensing a Grade 1 pill cauldron on top of a Grade 1 spirit platform, after a cultivator advances to the golden elixir period, their future prospects will inevitably be great. Why did Xiao Budian suffer a calamity in the past? It was because he was born with a Qi Si. Above his Qi Si was a supreme spirit platform, and it was even above the Grade 1 spirit platform. Having a supreme pill cauldron on top of the supreme spirit platform, forming a golden elixir is definitely the best. Not to mention the golden elixir period, Yuanying and even the primordial spirit can be expected to reach the great Tao. Lin Feng thought, Xiao Budian's root bone is still at the full value of 10. In the future, when he reaches the foundation establishment stage, opens his Qi Si, and forms a spirit platform, will he still be able to form a supreme spirit platform? While thinking, Lin Feng pushed open the door and walked out of the room. He saw his 3 disciples in the courtyard, gazing into the distance. Seeing Lin Feng come out, the 3 of them hurriedly greeted him. After bowing, Lin Feng asked them what they were looking at. Xiao Yan replied, Master, 100-meter-long centipede flew in the sky just now. There were many vague figures on the centipede, and it flew in that direction. Lin Feng looked in the direction he was pointing, and his eyes flashed. That direction is where the Hengyu sect is. Could it be that the people from the Xian Dao sect have arrived? Chapter 59. After settling down his 3 disciples, Lin Feng waved the black cloud flag and flew toward Hengyu Mountain. From afar, a centipede with 1,000 feet, about 100 meters long, could be seen in the sky. This centipede was completely black, and as it flew on black clouds, thunder could be heard. It circled above Hengyu Mountain, faintly showing off. Then, a purple sword light shot into the sky from the main peak of Hengyu Mountain. It turned into a dragon-shaped shadow and roared at the centipede. Only then did the centipede retract its aura and land on Hengyu Mountain with the Xiandao sect cultivators on its back. Most of the people from Hengyu sect were distracted by the centipede, so Lin Feng easily went up the mountain again. The leader of the Xiandao sect was an old man with a white beard. He was at the middle stage of foundation establishment and was very friendly. He laughed and said, Fellow cultivator, your Hengyu sect has a lot of potential this time. There had been no news of the Hengyu sect's Yuanying ancestor going to the void battlefield for hundreds of years. The patriarch of the sect during the Golden Elixir period was in seclusion. The current Heng sect leader was a middle-aged cultivator at the late stage of foundation establishment. The Heng sect leader was very polite to the old man's praise, and the atmosphere was very harmonious. Lin Feng secretly sneered. He knew that this friendly atmosphere wouldn't last long. The Xiandao sect was a guest from afar, so they were arranged to rest in a guest room. 3 days later, the competition between the two sects would officially begin. The participating disciples were basically all at the qi condensation stage. Ever since Lin Feng came to this world, the Tao, spells, and divine abilities that he had come into contact with were of a relatively high level. Thus, Lin Feng wasn't very interested in the techniques and martial arts used in the competition. Half of his attention was used to hide his tracks, and the other half was on Wang Lin. Wang Lin had only entered the sect a few days ago and was only an in-name disciple. There was no one to teach him Tao, and he only did odd jobs on the mountain. But Lin Feng actually faintly felt a trace of faintly discernible spirit energy fluctuations on Wang Lin's body. Even though it's extremely weak, still far from Qi disciple level 1, but on Wang Lin's body there are indeed signs of already beginning to draw Qi into his body. Lin Feng was astonished. Wang Lin's potential is indeed astonishing, but his innate talent is rather poor, even lower than the average standard. He belongs to the type of person who will rise to power in the later stages of cultivation. He shouldn't have improved so quickly when he just started cultivating, right? At this moment, Wang Lin was following behind a middle-aged cultivator in a well-behaved manner, earnestly watching the battle that had already begun on the arena. His figure fell in the middle of the crowd, completely inconspicuous. Lin Feng's gaze shifted to the middle-aged cultivator in front of Wang Lin. "You actually acknowledged him as your master? That person must have imparted a Tao technique to him, but it shouldn't have been that fast." This middle-aged cultivator himself was only at the 8th level of Qi cultivation. For a person to still be at this level in his middle age, there was basically no more potential to be unearthed. It would be the end of his life if he could successfully reach foundation establishment. Looks like this Wang Lin really did have some sort of fortuitous encounter. It wasn't some special treasure or Tao technique, it was just an old grandpa. Lin Feng's expression darkened. This time, not only did the Heng sect beat him to it, even his position as an old grandpa was taken. Lin Feng calculated in his heart. If his guess was correct, the Xiandao sect with Pu Beizi's support would most likely snatch the Heng sect's mountain. As a result, the Heng sect's prestige would definitely plummet, and the unity of the sect would definitely decrease. Wang Lin, who was already not valued and now had a fortuitous encounter, might leave the Heng sect because of this. Plus, he looked so inconspicuous now, so Pu Beizi and the Xiandao sect most likely wouldn't take a liking to him. Lin Feng's most important competitor was that old grandpa who had appeared out of nowhere. I wonder how much strength that old ghost has left. Lin Feng let out a long sigh. He had already made up his mind. Grandpa Jean snatch Wang Lin. He was determined to have this disciple. At this time, the battle between the two sects had reached its climax. One of the Heng sect disciples had the upper hand, forcing the Xiandao sect disciple to take out a yellow paper-like magic artifact to block. 2 rays of white light flew out of the Heng sect disciple's sleeves, circled in the air, and attacked his opponent at lightning speed. The Xiandao sect disciple laughed bitterly. He had put all his energy into blocking the first attack and didn't have any energy left to block the second wave of attack. Just at this time, someone from the Xiandao sect suddenly let out a cold snort. Then, a ray of black light shot out and intercepted the 2 rays of white light in the air. With a twist, the white light shattered. The Heng sect disciples all shouted angrily. The Xiandao sect disciple who attacked sneered and jumped onto the stage. He looked at the Heng sect disciples and arrogantly said, You Hing-yu sect Qi condensation disciples can come at me together. I alone am enough. The expressions of the Hing-yu sect elders darkened, and they all looked at the white-bearded old man leading the Xian Dao sect team. The old man stroked his beard, coughed, and said, "This time, we'll decide the winner by ourselves. If any of your Hing-yu sect disciples can last 10 seconds without being defeated, your Hing-yu sect wins." He paused for a moment, then smiled and said, "I'll take this opportunity to clarify something. If my Xian Dao sect wins today, apart from the previous rewards, I'll add on something else. This Hing-yu mountain needs to be lent to my Xian Dao sect for 500 years. Hearing this, Lin Feng laughed silently. "It's coming, it's coming, it's coming." All the Hing-yu sect cultivators' expressions changed slightly. The Hing-yu sect leader squinted his eyes. "Friend, are you joking?" The white-bearded old man smiled but didn't answer. He turned to the arrogant Xian Dao sect disciple and said, "Undo the talisman." Hearing this person pulled open his clothes and revealed a talisman. After taking it off, his power instantly increased and he displayed the power of a peak Qi condensation cultivator. However, the most eye-catching thing was the talisman. When the Hing-yu sect's foundation establishment cultivators saw it, they were all shocked. The white-bearded old man said calmly, "Friend, you saw this talisman as well. The power on it can't be made by a Yuanying ancestor. To tell you the truth, my Xian Dao sect's ancestor, Pu Beizi, has returned from the void battlefield. He brought back news that your two ancestors have both died. My Xian Dao sect didn't take it by force because of our past relationship. Instead, we left Hing-yu sect some face. If Hing-yu sect wins this competition, then this matter will be over. I've already passed on my message. Friend Huang Long, continue the competition." Reality proved that Hing-yu sect's strongest Qi condensation disciple was only at Qi condensation level 10. A few of them together were no match for the Xian Dao sect disciple who was at peak Qi condensation. Lin Feng's smile was very evil. He faintly thought that if it wasn't for his 9-turn flame soul pill that helped Pu Beizi heal his injuries, this competition might not have started so early. If it didn't start early, this competition might very well become Wang Lin's first battle in the novice village on his path to legend. When everyone in the same sect was defeated and the opponent was extremely arrogant and domineering, he would go up and slap the opponent, shocking everyone, and then step onto his own path. TSK, what a perfect script. But now that the competition had started early, Wang Lin had only just drawn Qi into his body and hadn't even reached Qi condensation level 1. How could he be so domineering and turn the tide? As expected, Hing-yu sect lost this competition without any suspense. The Hing-yu sect disciples watched with bitterness and anger as the opponent left. The news of the death of the Yuanying ancestor weighed heavily on everyone's hearts like a huge rock. Wang Lin was mixed in the crowd. His expression was one of anger and disappointment, but there was nothing he could do. His gaze was extremely complicated. He subconsciously touched his chest, and the desire for power in his heart grew stronger. Holding on to a sliver of hope, Hing-yu sect didn't move, but what they waited for was despair. 5 days later, rolling black clouds covered the top of Hing-yu mountain and a thunderous voice rang through the sky. "I'm Pu Beizi. Juniors of Hing-yu sect, come out." Chapter 60. The sky above Hing-yu mountain was filled with dark clouds, and a small black mountain suddenly appeared in the sky. It grew in the wind and instantly became a giant mountain. Following Pu Beizi's spell, the giant mountain immediately smashed down. A light screen appeared above Hing-yu mountain like an upside-down bowl, protecting the Hing-yu sect and blocking the attack of the giant mountain. But as Pu Beizi continued to increase his power, the Hing-yu sect's protective formation without a Yuanying cultivator became weaker and weaker. It was on the verge of collapse and looked like it was about to be broken. Lin Feng had already left the mountain and looked at this shocking scene from afar. His face was a bit pale. Yuanian cultivators are really powerful. The difference in cultivation is too big. No matter how many schemes I have, it's all in vain. He looked at the Hengyu sect's protective formation and felt a bit lucky. This formation is really extraordinary. It has been able to resist Yuanian cultivators for so long. If I came to steal people, I definitely wouldn't be able to break in. Rather than steal, it would be more appropriate to say steal. At the same time, Lin Feng also thought that when he established his own sect, his first task would be to create a protective formation that could protect the sect. This was the foundation of the foundation. Although the Hengyu sect's protective formation was tenacious, without a Yuanian cultivator, it couldn't resist Pu Beizi's attacks. Under the repeated attacks, web-like cracks appeared on the light screen and spread out in all directions. Break! Pu Beizi let out a loud roar and pressed down the mountain by 3 inches. Hengyu Mountain trembled, and with a rumbling sound, rocks rolled down and dust flew everywhere. The huge mountain had actually been pressed down dozens of meters. At this moment, the Hengyu sect's protective formation finally couldn't resist anymore. It made a sound like a mirror breaking, and the entire light screen instantly shattered and disappeared. Lin Feng secretly sighed. He knew that there was no hope for the Hengyu sect. Pu Beizi's overbearing voice came from the sky. Your Hengyu sect's 2 nascent soul ancestors have already died in the void battlefield. You can't protect this Hengyu mountain. Rather than letting others take it, why not give it to my Xian Dao sect? Apart from people, you can't take anything away. If you continue to be so long-winded, I don't mind destroying your entire Hengyu sect. Apart from that, my Xian Dao sect is recruiting disciples. If you want to join, you can stay here. Lin Feng secretly shook his head. This Pu Beizi was really ruthless. He wanted to destroy the Hengyu sect's foundation. Sure enough, the group of Hengyu sect disciples became restless. Even the dozen or so foundation establishment elders had strange thoughts. More than half of them stayed where they were. The faces of the 2 Hengyu sect golden elixir period elders were ashen, but they could only grit their teeth and swallow their anger. Taking the few disciples who were willing to follow their sect, they left Hengyu Mountain. Lin Feng didn't care about the others. All his attention was on Wang Lin. Looking into the distance, he saw that Wang Lin didn't stay. Instead, he left the mountain with the Hengyu sect. Lin Feng decisively followed. The 2 golden elixir period cultivators used their escape technique. Their bodies turned into rays of light and they took the group of disciples who were willing to leave. After flying for a long time, they finally landed on a barren mountain. The large Hengyu sect that was still willing to follow their sect only had a mere 20 people. It looked extremely pitiful. The 2 golden elixir period cultivators looked at each other. Their mouths were full of bitterness, but they still had to force themselves to encourage the people. They didn't dare to let the last of their hearts scatter. Lin Feng quietly snuck up the barren mountain and saw the 2 golden elixir period cultivators meditating. It was obvious that they were recovering the Li they had used to control the spell formation. 3 foundation establishment cultivators were standing guard at the side. The Qi condensation disciples were scattered on the mountain in groups of 3 to 5. Some people were diligently cultivating, some people were cursing and blaming others. Wang Lin was assigned to fetch water for everyone. He walked towards a small stream in the distance. Lin Feng smiled and was about to follow him. Just as his feet moved, Lin Feng's movement stopped again. This was because he found that there was a person quietly following behind Wang Lin. He was careful not to make any noise lest he startled the others. This person was the middle-aged Qi condensation level 8 cultivator suspected to be Wang Lin's master. He stared at Wang Lin with a faint flash of coldness. Lin Feng frowned slightly. It seemed that he wasn't the only one who was thinking about Wang Lin. I might as well get rid of you and remove your master-disciple relationship. Lin Feng sneered and followed. Wang Lin came to the side of the stream and looked back for a moment. He didn't see anyone. However, he didn't know that the middle-aged cultivator wasn't far behind him and that Lin Feng was following closely behind. The two trackers paid attention to hiding their bodies and auras. Wang Lin, who hadn't even reached Qi condensation level 1, naturally couldn't find them. Wang Lin didn't notice anyone behind him. He squatted by the stream and looked at the flowing water in a daze. The huge change happened so suddenly that he was caught off guard. In essence, he was still a simple youth. Today was the first time he experienced the law of the jungle in the cultivation world. This feeling made him feel very depressed. He urgently desired more power so that he could do something. He didn't want to be like a helpless weed that others didn't care about when the huge change happened. Wang Lin took out a gray stone bead the size of a baby's fist and thought, this thing might be the key to changing my fate. That day, he was rejected by the Hengyu sect and jumped off a cliff to commit suicide. However, he accidentally found the stone bead. The stone bead sent a small amount of spiritual qi into Wang Lin's body, healing his serious injuries from falling off the cliff. Wang Lin immediately realized that this stone bead wasn't an ordinary item. That was why when Lin Feng came that day, Wang Lin was suspicious. He thought that Lin Feng discovered the secret of the stone bead and came for it. After Wang Lin joined the Hengyu sect, he was taught some basic Dao technique. However, he still couldn't grasp the main point. Then, the stone bead sent spiritual qi into his body again. Then, Wang Lin found that he could actually draw spiritual qi into his body. This further confirmed Wang Lin's judgment. This stone bead was definitely a treasure. There were many people in the Xian Dao sect and the situation was complicated. Wang Lin chose to stay in the Hengyu sect to protect the secret of this stone bead. Seeing the stone bead, Lin Feng's eyes became cold and he gritted his teeth. It's you, you bastard. On the other side, the middle-aged cultivator's eyes lit up and he smiled happily. I knew you had a secret on you. Haha, the heavens have blessed me, Sun Xiaozhu, to give me such a treasure. When Sun Xiaozhu appeared, Wang Lin was shocked. When he turned around and saw Sun Xiaozhu, his expression immediately became ugly. Good disciple, let me see that stone bead. Sun Xiaozhu laughed as he walked towards Wang Lin. Wang Lin's fist that was holding the stone bead tightened and he said in a low voice, Master, it's just a normal marble, disciple is playing with it. Sun Xiaozhu laughed strangely and suddenly slapped Wang Lin to the ground. You still dare to lie to me? With your poor talent, there must be a special reason for you to be able to draw spiritual qi into your body after just a few days. If it wasn't to find out your secret, do you think I would accept a trash like you as my disciple? Wang Lin fell to the ground and curled his body into a ball, hiding the stone bead tightly in his chest. He pursed his lips and didn't say a word. His face was filled with stubbornness. Sun Xiaozhu laughed coldly. You got a rare treasure, but you don't want to give it to your master. Instead, you dare to hide it? Obediently give it to me, or else you'll suffer. Well done. Lin Feng rubbed his palms together and quickly tidied up his clothes. He was ready to go out. Your actions perfectly accentuated my heroic appearance. Thank you, brother. Lin Feng was about to step out when Wang Lin on the ground suddenly let out a low cry, and then he saw a wisp of black smoke come out from the stone orb in his arms, condensing into a human figure in midair, cackling weirdly. Lin Feng almost tripped over his own feet. He quickly stopped and gritted his teeth as he stared at the figure in the air. I bought a watch last year. You really have an old grandpa? Chapter 61. Although Lin Feng gritted his teeth in hatred, he was still mentally prepared. Wang Lin and Sun Xiaozhu, on the other hand, were dumbfounded. Black smoke continuously came out of the stone bead and condensed into a human figure in the air, letting out a strange old laugh. Lin Feng looked carefully and saw that the figure was an old man with an unruly, arrogant, and overbearing demeanor. A mere Qi disciple stage ant dares to covet my treasure? What a joke, what a joke! The old man's laughter was very heroic, but Lin Feng sensed a thick aura of viciousness and savagery from between his brows and gaze. This old ghost must be vicious and not a good person. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, but he was not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, he prepared to observe patiently and know his enemy. Sun Xiaozhu, on the other hand, didn't have such good willpower and scolded. Where did this wandering ghost come from? How dare you be so arrogant? Then he put his hands together and formed a spell. As his magic power surged, a golden light flew out from his waist and shot towards the old man. The old man sneered and pointed with his finger. A cloud of black mist spurted out and blocked the golden light. Watch me break your evil technique. Sun Xiaozhu's hands changed the spell. Just as the golden light was about to touch the black mist, it suddenly exploded and turned into a sky full of golden light that fell on the black mist like rain. At once, the golden light flashed and the black mist was riddled with holes. Lin Feng looked at Sun Xiaozhu, who was beaming with joy and couldn't help but sneer in his heart. What kind of opponent do you think you're facing? Sure enough, the old man floated in the air without any change in his expression. The black mist suddenly spun like a giant whirlpool. The golden raindrops that fell into it were quickly swallowed by the whirlpool. Sun Xiaozhu's expression changed and his face became pale. After holding it in for a long time, he couldn't hold it in and spat out a mouthful of blood. How could he not know the consequences now? He pointed at Wang Lin and hissed, "Traitorous disciple, how dare you collude with evil to harm your own master? My Hingyu sect will not tolerate a traitorous disciple like you. Today, I will expel you from the sect. The original master-disciple relationship of the target has been removed. Host can now accept the target as a disciple." Hearing the system prompt in his mind, Lin Feng looked at Sun Xiaozhu in a daze. Damn, it's that simple? Wang Lin was only an in-name disciple of the Hengyu sect and was under Sun Xiaozhu's tutelage. As long as Sun Xiaozhu removed their master-disciple relationship, he wouldn't need the permission of the Hengyu sect. If not for Lin Feng still being able to maintain his rationality, he would have immediately hugged Sun Xiaozhu and kissed him. They were really family. Sun Xiaozhu still did not know the meaning of what he did just now. He only had one thought in his mind: I can't keep it to myself. I can only run back to the sect and find the elders to subdue this demon. Wang Lin, you traitorous disciple. When I report to the 2 golden elixir period patriarchs, they will definitely kill you along with these demons to protect the sect. Sun Xiaozhu pointed at Wang Lin and cursed, then ran away without looking back. The old man saw Sun Xiaozhu run away and grinned, revealing a bloodthirsty and cruel aura. If this old man was at his peak, not to mention 2 golden elixir period, even 2 yuanying periods would be nothing. However, I, Sikong Nan, am a tiger that has fallen to the plains, so I can't let you go and deliver the message. As Sikong Nan spoke, he pointed with his finger. The black mist turned into a rope and quickly flew towards Sun Xiaozhu. It turned into a noose in the air and directly wrapped around Sun Xiaozhu's neck. Sun Xiaozhu was scared out of his wits. He quickly put away his domineering attitude and shouted, "Junior knows his mistake. Senior, please forgive me this once." Sikong Nan laughed strangely. It's too late to beg for mercy now. As he finished speaking, the black mist noose tightened. Sun Xiaozhu didn't feel suffocated, but his mana was completely restrained. In the next moment, Sun Xiaozhu shrieked in pain. His eyes glazed over as he stood rooted to the ground like a wooden statue. His soul had been taken away by Sikong Nan, and his body had become an empty shell. Lin Feng's pupils shrunk as he thought, instantly taking away a Qi disciple level 8 cultivator's soul without any chance to resist. This old ghost is not easy to deal with. The black mist noose loosened from Sun Xiaozhu's neck and returned into Sikong Nan's body. The old ghost's face was full of enjoyment. He looked up at the sky and let out a long breath. How delicious! I haven't tasted it in a long time. Taking away a person's soul, Sikong Nan's method was obviously a demonic spell. Not to mention Lin Feng, even Wang Lin could see that he wasn't a righteous person. Sikong Nan's eyes slanted and saw Wang Lin's vigilant and faintly frightened expression. The old ghost snorted in disdain. What are you looking at? We cultivators are supposed to go against the heavens. Whoever provokes you, you kill them. You've only been in this dog shit sect for a few days. How much humiliation have you suffered? If it was me, I'm afraid this sect would have been wiped out by me. I'll make all those who insulted me disappear. Wang Lin smiled bitterly. Don't interrupt me. I'm not done yet. Your little sect still has a few pretty girls. You really don't know how to enjoy life. If it was me, I would have captured them and sucked their een dry. That feeling really makes me miss it. I haven't tasted it for more than 30 years. Wang Lin was dumbfounded and speechless. Sikong Nan talked nonstop for a long time before he finally stopped. He cast a sidelong glance at Wang Lin and snorted, "Stinking brat, how does it feel to be bullied by others and fight all of you alone?" Wang Lin was startled. He had only been in the sect for a few days and was mocked and looked down on. He didn't have a strong sense of belonging to the Hengyu sect. However, during the competition, when the Xian Dao sect Qi condensation disciple challenged all the Hengyu sect Qi condensation disciples, Wang Lin was in the crowd and felt angry. Unfortunately, he didn't even have Qi condensation level 1 cultivation. He could only watch helplessly as the other party pointed at everyone's nose and provoked them. Seeing the anger on Wang Lin's face, Sikong Nan smiled leisurely. How does it feel to have your sect taken away and chased out like a stray dog? Wang Lin pursed his lips. What do you want to say? Sikong Nan smiled. Do you want to become stronger? Do you want to have unparalleled strength? Do you want to slap someone back to their grandma's house when they provoke you? Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Lin Feng, who was hiding on the side, had fire in his eyes. Damn it, not only did this old ghost steal my business, he also stole my lines. Wang Lin asked, You can make me stronger? You can teach me cultivation techniques and techniques? Sikong Nan laughed. It's just a small matter. If you learn from me in less than 10 years, you'll be able to climb the path to the heavens. At that time, you'll know that the Yuanian cultivator who took away your sect today is nothing more than a chicken or a dog. However, the path of cultivation is full of thorns and is definitely not smooth. You'll have to suffer a lot. Can you endure it? Wang Lin's face showed determination. Lin Feng's expression was ferocious. His mana surged and he was ready to attack. Damn! Get out of my way! This disciple is mine. Chapter 62. Wang Lin revealed a determined expression and gritted his teeth. I can endure any pain. Lin Feng stared coldly at Sikong Nan. Just as he was about to attack, he suddenly noticed that after Wang Lin agreed, Sikong Nan's eyes flashed with imperceptible pride and ecstasy. Lin Feng was slightly startled and a thought flashed through his mind. This old ghost doesn't have a system like me and knows that Wang Lin has such strong potential. Right now, Wang Lin looks like a piece of trash with extremely poor talent. Why is he so happy after taking Wang Lin? In a split second, Lin Feng forcibly suppressed the urge to attack. This old ghost is strange. After a pause, the pride and ecstasy in Sikong Nan's eyes disappeared. He glanced at the place where the Hengyu sect people were gathered. This is not the place to talk. I'll take you to a secret place first and then we'll talk. As he spoke, Sikong Nan's body was shrouded in black mist. It wrapped around Wang Lin and flew into the distance. Lin Feng quietly raised the black cloud flag and quietly followed behind. Let's see what you're up to. For someone like Wang Lin, the main character of a fantasy novel, it was almost standard for him to carry an old grandpa with him. However, Lin Feng always felt that this old grandpa Sikong Nan was a bit strange. The black mist took Wang Lin and flew for hundreds of miles before landing in a valley. Wang Lin landed dizzily, and the black mist reformed into Sikong Nan's figure in front of him. Lin Feng followed him into the valley, only to see Sikong Nan raise his hand and shoot out a cloud of black smoke, covering the inside of the valley. People on the outside cannot see the scene inside, nor can they hear the sounds coming out from within. This black smoke is formed by the old ghost's magic power. If I were to use conventional methods to sneak in, no matter how stealthy I am, I would still be discovered by the old ghost. Lin Feng smiled. Unfortunately, it's not a problem for me. The black cloud flag lightly waved, and a black light flickered. Lin Feng entered the enchantment that Sikong Nan had set up. The black cloud flag directly broke through the void and teleported from the space outside the enchantment to the space inside the enchantment. It did not come into contact with the black smoke, so naturally, it would not be discovered by Sikong Nan. After Lin Feng quietly sneaked in, he saw Sikong Nan and Wang Lin standing face to face inside the barrier of black smoke. There shouldn't be anyone here to disturb us, Sikong Nan mumbled to himself. Then, he turned to look at Wang Lin and said solemnly, "To cultivate my Dao technique, you will need the underworld pearl in your hand." Lin Feng's gaze fell on the stone pearl in Wang Lin's hand. Wang Lin also lowered his head to look at the stone pearl. Sikong Nan continued, "Your foundation is weak, and your foundation is also weak. If you want to quickly increase your strength, there is only one way, and that is for this old man to use the infusion technique to help you advance by leaps and bounds." Wang Lin asked doubtfully, "Infusion?" Sikong Nan nodded and said, "In a moment, use your mind to communicate with the underworld pearl in your hand. It would be best if you can draw out the power of the underworld pearl to nourish your body. At the same time, open your mind to this old man, open your mind to your sea of consciousness. This old man will infusion for you and help you increase your cultivation." Using both methods at the same time and combining the power of both sides, you will be able to be reborn. Wang Lin blinked. After a long silence, he suddenly asked, "Senior, why do you want to help me?" As soon as these words came out, Sikong Nan and Lin Feng were both stunned. This kid, it was fine if he didn't speak, but once he did, his question hit the nail on the head. Sikong Nan was stunned for a moment, then he coldly snorted and said, "This old man saw that you are a good-for-nothing kid and got angry, so I was kind enough to help you, and now you're taking advantage of me?" Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and he said in a deep voice, "Thank you for your kindness, Senior, but there is no need to trouble Senior. Senior, please send me back to meet the elders of the sect." Sikong Nan narrowed his eyes. "You don't know how to appreciate favors. Do you know what you are saying?" Wang Lin tightly pursed his lips, and said in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing, "Junior's talent is clumsy, and my cultivation is low. I'm afraid I can't repay Senior's great kindness. I don't dare accept Senior's great kindness." Sikong Nan laughed strangely. "That's not up to you." Wang Lin's expression changed slightly, and he heard Sikong Nan continue, "I originally wanted to save some time, but since you don't know how to appreciate favors, then this old man will have to spend some effort to let you see this old man's methods." As he said this, Sikong Nan's hands formed a seal, and suddenly, rolling black fog sprayed out, enveloping Wang Lin. Lin Feng watched from the side and he was tongue-tied. This isn't the right script. The destined one is going to fight with his grandfather? Once he was enveloped by the black fog, Wang Lin's vision became chaotic, and his head became dizzy. He just wanted to fall asleep. Intuition told Wang Lin that once he fell asleep, he would never wake up again. At this moment, Wang Lin suddenly had a flash of inspiration. This old man's cultivation is far beyond the chi refining stage, much higher than mine. Killing me is like swatting a mosquito. Although he appeared from within the underworld pearl, it seems that he can't control the underworld pearl? The underworld pearl is the only thing I can rely on now. If there's anything that can protect me, it's definitely the underworld pearl. Thinking this, Wang Lin forced himself to stay awake, and he focused all his attention on the underworld pearl in his hand. At this critical moment, a person's potential exploded, and Wang Lin really succeeded in communicating with the underworld pearl. The originally gray and inconspicuous stone bead suddenly emitted a dim yellow halo, blocking Sikong Nan's black mist from entering it. Seeing this, Sikong Nan was furious, but he had no other choice. He could only keep increasing his magic power, hoping that the black fog could break through the yellow halo. The old man was in so much pain that he wanted to die. In the past, Sikong Nan fought with others for this underworld pearl. His physical body was destroyed, and his soul was heavily injured, so he could only attach himself to the underworld pearl. After decades, not only did he not manage to refine this treasure, but he also showed signs of being refined by the underworld pearl. Gradually, he was trapped in the underworld pearl, unable to get out. When Wang Lin obtained the underworld pearl, he had a wound on his body, and his blood had dripped onto the underworld pearl, inadvertently sacrificing this treasure. However, Wang Lin's cultivation level was too low, and he was unable to control the underworld pearl. Sikong Nan's plan was to take over Wang Lin's body. Not only would he obtain a new physical body, but he would also be able to use this opportunity to refine the underworld pearl. Who knew that Wang Lin would become suspicious and not give him a chance? However, Sikong Nan could not kill Wang Lin. If Wang Lin died, Sikong Nan would continue to be trapped in the underworld pearl. Thus, his current plan was to use sorcery to subdue Wang Lin and obediently offer his physical body. Unfortunately, Wang Lin had successfully activated the underworld pearl to resist at the critical moment of life and death. Sikong Nan could not dismount, and he could only fight with Wang Lin to see who could last longer. At this moment, Lin Feng understood everything. How was this an old grandpa? This was clearly an old demon who wanted to take over Wang Lin's body. After understanding this, Lin Feng completely calmed down. It seemed that the first pot of gold in Wang Lin's life was the treasure, the underworld pearl, and not some old grandpa. This Sikong Nan was basically a villain. Not only would he not fight with Lin Feng for the position of old grandpa, but he would also become a stepping stone to set off Lin Feng's villain. Of course, the prerequisite for all of this was that he could not let this old ghost really take over Wang Lin's body. Lin Feng smiled coldly at Sikong Nan. "Old ghost, you bullied my disciple? You really don't know how to write the word death." Chapter 63. Although the underworld pearl's radiance was protecting him, Wang Lin, who was surrounded by the black fog, felt himself getting colder and colder. It wasn't just his body that was cold, but his soul was shivering and freezing. It was as if a cold wind was blowing from the depths of his heart. No matter how warm the outside world was, it couldn't block it. He didn't know that this was a sign of his spirit being overused. If this continued, it would hurt his soul. Although the underworld pearl could restrain Sikong Nan to a certain extent, Wang Lin's cultivation was too low. His soul couldn't control the underworld pearl and couldn't withstand the consumption of the underworld pearl. Sikong Nan's strange laughter rang in his ears, and his vision went black. Wang Lin felt like his spirit was about to collapse, and many irrelevant things started to appear in his mind. The first thing that Wang Lin thought of was his parents. "Father, mother, am I going to die? Taizhu is unfilial, I can't go back to see you." Inconceivably, the second thing that came to Wang Lin's mind was a young Taoist wearing a white robe. If I had left with that Taoist, would I have avoided today's disaster? Wang Lin's mind was in a mess. Just as he was about to lose consciousness, a voice suddenly came to his ears. "Old ghost, get out of my way, stay away from my disciple." Wang Lin tried his best to open his eyes. The light and shadow in front of him changed, and finally, he saw a flash of white light that tore through the black fog. The young Taoist in white robe that he saw before suddenly appeared in front of him, looking at him with concern. Wang Lin's lips moved as if he wanted to say something, but in the end no sound came out. His head tilted and he fainted. Lin Feng saw that Wang Lin had only fainted due to exhaustion, so he relaxed and turned to face Sikong Nan. Sikong Nan coldly stared at him. "Junior, you dare to ruin this old man's business. This old man will pull out your soul and refine it into a soul lamp. I will let you suffer the pain of the ghost fire day and night." Lin Feng waved his sleeve, shielding Wang Lin behind him. He calmly said, "Get out of here now, and I will spare your life." Sikong Nan's eyebrows immediately rose, and he laughed strangely. "Junior, you're courting death." As the black fog surged, it flew into the air and gathered together, almost solidifying. Then, it spun rapidly and pressed down on Lin Feng like a drill. Lin Feng's palms changed the incantation gesture, and all the magic power in his body automatically turned into the pure Buddhist magic power of the Ksitigarbha Sutra. His entire body emitted a layer of faint golden Buddhist light. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva hasn't been completely cultivated yet, so Lin Feng doesn't dare to be careless. His hands formed a Buddhist hand seal, using the Ksitigarbha Sutra's Buddhist mana to propel it. He casts the little reincarnation technique he comprehended from the Thundershock Dhyana. Activating the minor reincarnation art, a golden light gathered above Lin Feng's head, forming a huge swastika symbol. The black drill spun rapidly as it pressed down. The golden swastika above Lin Feng's head spun, causing the black drill to deviate and land on a cliff far away. The cliff that had endured thousands of years of wind and rain was directly smashed into smithereens by the black drill. Lin Feng's expression didn't change on the surface, but he was alarmed in his heart. This old bastard only has a remnant soul left, but his strength is equivalent to the peak of Foundation establishment. If he recovers to his peak, how terrifying would he be? No matter if it's the Ksitigarbha Sutra or the minor reincarnation technique, they're both Buddhist secrets that aren't passed on to others. Only by combining the two, Lin Feng was able to take on Sikong Nan's first round of attack. And luckily he used the minor reincarnation art and deflected the black drill by borrowing force. Otherwise, if he took it head-on, with the incomplete Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva Sutra, it would most likely be a disaster. Lin Feng's pupil shrunk. "Since I've made this enemy today, I can't leave any loose ends. Show mercy, don't attack, don't show mercy." Thinking up to here, he raised both his hands, and 24 golden lights flew in all directions, landing on the ground. Sikong Nan stared at Lin Feng and snorted coldly. "Buddhist monk? This old man hates monks the most. Let me show you my 100 ghosts nocturnal art." Sikong Nan's technique changed continuously, and the black fog he emitted became thicker and thicker, gradually enveloping the entire valley. Waves of miserable screams came from the black fog, and dozens of crimson-red lights suddenly lit up in the black fog, looking extremely dazzling. In the next moment, Lin Feng saw a dozen or so black shadows stumble out of the thick fog. Those were a dozen or so ferocious-looking, pitch-black ghosts. Those crimson-red dots of light that lit up earlier were actually their eyes. Sikong Nan's strange laughter came from the black fog. "What a pity, what a pity. Back then, I used the 1,000 ghosts nocturnal art, the 10,000 ghosts nocturnal art. How bold was that? Now that I've fallen, I only have these dozens of ghosts left, but it's more than enough to deal with you. Little bastard, once I kill you, I'll turn you into one of them, and you'll be at my beck and call for eternity." Lin Feng looked carefully and saw one of the weaker ghosts. Although it was pitch black and had a twisted face, he could still vaguely recognize its facial features. It was Sun Xiaozhu, who was just killed by Sikong Nan. From the aura around this ghost, he completely retained Sun Xiaozhu's Qi Disciple Level 8 cultivation when he was alive. Sun Xiaozhu was the weakest among this group of vengeful ghosts. The other vengeful ghosts were at least at the peak of Qi refinement. There were 6 vengeful ghosts that were probably Foundation establishment cultivators when they were alive, but Sikong Nan extracted their souls to refine them. The ghosts howled in front of him, but Lin Feng ignored them. He looked into the depths of the black fog and laughed. "You're really playing with a big axe in front of Lu Ban's door." Sikong Nan was startled. "What did you say?" Lin Feng smiled. His smile was as bright as the sun, raising his hand and lightly snapping his fingers. Snap! With a crisp sound, a dazzling Buddhist light soared into the sky, and bursts of golden light washed away the black fog. The sound of Buddhist chanting filled with compassion lingered in the ears, and the chilly wind and ghostly cries disappeared in an instant. The smell of sandalwood filled the air, calming one's mind. Lin Feng bathed in the Buddhist light, closed his eyes, and listened to the Buddhist chants. He tapped his hands lightly, feeling extremely satisfied. The dozens of ghosts were having a hard time. They were all surrounded by the golden Buddhist light, and their bodies felt like they were being burned. They could only curl into a ball and bitterly resist. The black fog dissipated, revealing Sikong Nan's lifeless face. 24 30-meter-tall giant arhats stepped out from the golden fog behind Lin Feng, bringing with them an unparalleled pressure. Lin Feng opened his eyes and chuckled. "Who did you say it was more than enough to deal with?" His smile revealed his snow-white teeth, and they even shone faintly. But in Sikong Nan's eyes it made him shudder. Sikong Nan had always thought that he was already savage enough, but looking at Lin Feng, who was full of smiles right now, he only felt as if he was facing a primordial supermonster. Lin Feng smiled and lightly waved his right hand. "Then, let's begin." 24 golden arhats chanted the Buddhist chants together, and their voices were deafening. They strode toward Sikong Nan and the dozens of ghosts, shaking the earth and mountains. Chapter 64. After Lin Feng activated the 24 Heaven Arhat formation, the battle situation immediately fell into a one-sided situation. 24 golden arhats, all at the Foundation establishment level, surrounded the ghosts and gave them a good beating. These ghosts and spirits were no match for the golden arhats in terms of individual combat ability or collective combat ability. Now that they were restrained by the Buddhist light, they could only use 80% of their abilities. The result of the battle was obvious. Sikong Nan watched as the ghosts he had refined were killed one by one. He was so distressed that he cried out, "Junior, this old man will fight you to the death." Sikong Nan's expression was ferocious. He clasped his hands in front of his chest and formed a spell. The black fog continued to gather, gradually compressing into a black ball of light. The few remaining ghosts let out ear-piercing screams. Their eyes glowed red as they shot towards the black ball of light in front of Sikong Nan's chest. The red light continued to fuse into the black ball of light. The black ball of light became darker and heavier. As the red light continued to shoot out, the few ghosts became dispirited, as if they had been drained of energy. Lin Feng thought, "He seems to have used a secret technique to sacrifice these ghosts to complete some kind of secret technique." Thinking of this, Lin Feng waved his hand. The 24 golden arhats clasped their hands together. The golden light above their heads merged into a golden cloud of light. Lin Feng did not have the intention of waiting for his opponent to charge up his ultimate move. After the opponent finished charging up, he would fight it out with his most powerful move. Before crossing the river, striking the middle of the river was the right way. The Sanskrit chants sounded from the golden cloud of light. A golden light flew out from the cloud of light and turned into a giant golden wheel, smashing towards Sikong Nan's head. Sikong Nan stared and shouted, "Junior, you dare? Take this old man's Ghost King cannon." A thick blood-red pillar of light shot out from the black ball of light. The pillar of light was surrounded by black light. The golden wheel collided with the blood-red pillar of light. There was no sound, but a strong invisible shockwave spread out from the point of collision. Even the golden fog of the Buddhist light formation was blown away by the continuous shockwave. Invisible waves swept through the entire valley. The towering ancient trees in the mountains were toppled over, and countless plants were uprooted. Sand and pebbles flew everywhere, and even cracks appeared on the hard stone walls. The blood-red beam of light was not destroyed by the golden roulette, and the golden roulette was not damaged either. The two powerful forces were locked in a stalemate in mid-air. Seeing this scene, Sikong Nan's heart was filled with hatred. Cunning Junior, if you wait for me to complete this technique, I will definitely be able to destroy your Buddhist Dharma. I hate myself for being so heavily injured. Not only has my cultivation dropped, I can't even use many of my powerful divine abilities. Otherwise, even with my current cultivation of foundation building, killing a little beast like you would be like killing a dog. Sikong Nan roared in his heart, if you fall into my hands, I will burn your soul like oil. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent as he nodded calmly. Not bad. His calm demeanor made Sikong Nan even more depressed. However, you still have a long way to go. Lin Feng formed a hand seal with both of his hands. The 24 arhats instantly responded and once again chanted the name of Buddha. Buddha is merciful. The golden roulette immediately shined brightly and forcefully pushed forward, forcing the blood-red beam of light to shrink back. The roulette's advancing speed was not fast, nor was it hurried, nor impatient. However, it was filled with unstoppable, undefeatable power. When I say I will crush you, I will crush you. Sikong Nan's expression changed drastically. This time, he couldn't even speak and could only bitterly resist. However, in front of the golden roulette's tyrannical power, he appeared so helpless, like a candle in the wind that could be extinguished at any moment. But Lin Feng still did not stop. He was unforgiving when in power. Only a dead enemy is a good enemy. Letting the 24 Sariras support the array, Lin Feng's spiritual energy has already changed from Buddhist spiritual energy to the Nine Heavens Thunder Technique's Thunder spiritual energy. Thunder is the strongest and most powerful energy in the world. It is the most tyrannical and swift. It is the nemesis of all ghosts and is specialized in breaking ghost and evil technique. Lin Feng clasped his palms together. Instantly, the thunder spiritual energy around him quickly gathered and condensed into a giant thunder blade that was over 10 meters long in the air. The violent bluish-purple thunder light made Sikong Nan's face purple. At this moment, Sikong Nan felt the light in the sky suddenly darken. The sun did not disappear. Instead, his vision was completely filled with the light of another bluish-purple sun. Nine Heavens Thunder Technique, derived from the divine ability spell, Wild Thunder Lightning Blade. Lin Feng smiled, baring his teeth. Old bastard, die. Under Sikong Nan's horrified gaze, the violent thunder and lightning saber streaked across the space tens of meters away, bringing with it a continuous crackling sound in the air as it chopped down towards his head. No. All of Sikong Nan's spiritual energy was used to fight against the golden roulette. How could he have any energy left to block Lin Feng's blade? With a cry, Sikong Nan's godly soul that was floating in the air was directly cut into two by Lin Feng's blade. The lower half of his body was directly smashed by the thunder. Every inch of his upper body's skin was wrapped in countless sparks of electricity, continuously exploding. It was extremely miserable. This young man is cruel. I can't fight him head-on anymore. Otherwise, I will die here today. Sikong Nan stared at Lin Feng with hatred. What was left of his godly soul turned into a black fog and returned to the underworld pearl. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He put away the 24 Heaven Arhat array and rushed forward to pick up the underworld pearl. He could feel that inside the underworld pearl, Sikong Nan's heavily injured godly soul was actually recovering rapidly. Young man, no matter how arrogant you are, as long as I am in this underworld pearl, you can't kill me. Sikong Nan's hideous laughter came from the underworld pearl. I will settle this with you sooner or later. Let's see who will have the last laugh. Lin Feng indifferently glanced at the underworld pearl. He drew a seal in the air with his finger and added it to the underworld pearl. Without a doubt, the one who will have the last laugh will be me. As for you, hee. Inside the underworld pearl, Sikong Nan's laughter suddenly stopped. It was as if someone had suddenly grabbed his neck. After a while, his flustered and exasperated voice came. What did you do? How could you cut off the connection between the underworld pearl and me? This is Taishu Temple's heaven cage sigil? How could you possibly know the secret spells of Taishu Temple? Didn't you cultivate Buddhist Taoist techniques? You know Buddhist Taoist techniques and Taoist sacred ground technique. Who are you? Lin Feng didn't pay attention to Sikong Nan, who had already sunk into madness. He put away the underworld pearl and used the black cloud flag to wrap himself and Wang Lin, who was still unconscious on the ground, leaving this valley. Lin Feng tried to use mana to stimulate and wake up Wang Lin, but there was no reaction. He frowned and examined carefully. He found that Wang Lin's godly soul was actually also trapped inside the underworld pearl. I have to get his godly soul out as soon as possible. He doesn't have any cultivation in Taoist technique. If his godly soul is out of his body for too long, he won't be able to return to his corporeal body. Lin Feng set up the black cloud flag and flew. The heaven cage sigil can only temporarily seal that old ghost. Leaving him alive is still a disaster. I have to find a place to completely solve this problem. Chapter 65. The Hengyu sect group flew all the way until they were thousands of miles away from the Hengyu mountain. Sikong Nan then brought Wang Lin and flew far away. After Lin Feng determined the direction, he raised the black cloud flag and brought Wang Lin and the underworld pearl back to the Hengyu mountain. Lin Feng's 3 disciples were still waiting for him in the small town at the foot of the Hengyu mountain. However, before meeting up with his disciples, Lin Feng first had to find a quiet place to solve the problem of Wang Lin and Sikong Nan. He found a secluded valley less than 100 miles east of the Hengyu mountain. He opened the black cloud flag and sealed the valley. Then, he crushed a sound transmission crystal. The crystal shard emitted a faint white light and Xiao Yan's voice came from the white light. Master, what's the matter? Lin Feng said. Master has recently comprehended the Tao of heaven and earth. My Tao technique realm has increased again, but I need to go into seclusion for a period of time. I'm not sure how long it will be. Take care of yourselves during this period of time. Stay in the town and wait patiently for Master to return. After a pause, Lin Feng still continued. Master's seclusion is in a small valley 100 miles east of the Hengyu mountain. If there are any difficulties you can't solve, you can come here to find Master. Xiao Yan smiled. Master, don't worry. We will wait patiently for you to return. Lin Feng made a sound. The white light on the crystal dissipated and the communication was cut off. After settling down Wang Lin's body, Lin Feng sat cross-legged with the underworld pearl on his palm. After all, he only had qi condensation cultivation. The heaven cage sigil he set up earlier was about to be destroyed by Sikong Nan. Lin Feng connected his mind with the underworld pearl. His consciousness seemed to enter a dim yellow space. Ripples visible to the naked eye flowed in the space. It was as if he was underwater. As far as the eye could see, everything was dim yellow. In the depths of the space, Sikong Nan was locked in a cage made of light. His entire body was shrouded in black mist, and he kept hitting the bars of the light prison. The light prison made of the heaven cage sigil was already on the verge of collapse, and could be broken by this old ghost at any time. When Sikong Nan saw Lin Feng, he cackled. You think that everything will be fine just because you used the heaven cage sigil to trap me? On the contrary, this heaven cage sigil instead allows this old man to see through the depth of your cultivation. You're nothing but a little brat at the chi refinement stage. After this old man breaks this sigil, I'll use your soul to accompany my wine. Lin Feng smiled carelessly. Before that, I'll make you cold. The golden Buddha's light instantly lit up the dim yellow space. Looking at the huge figure in the Buddha's light, Sikong Nan's face turned green. What kind of magic item is this? It can actually permeate magic power into the underworld pearl? This is a sarira. You refined a Buddhist sarira into a magic item? Within the Buddha's light that filled the sky, Lin Feng sat cross-legged silently. His hands formed a Buddhist seal, and he smiled. Old ghost, today I'll use this Buddha's light formation to refine and transcend you. Xiao Budian looked at Xiao Yin anxiously. Eldest senior brother, isn't Master coming back? Xiao Yin nodded. Master wants to break through and raise his cultivation, so he decided to go into seclusion for a period of time. The length of time is uncertain. The place is 100 li east of here in a small valley. Things like seclusion are about not being disturbed. So my opinion is that we should stay here and wait for Master. Xiao Budian lowered his head. Xiao Yen and Zhu Yi looked at each other. Zhu Yi said, Little junior brother, if you really want Master, then let's go to the valley right now. We won't disturb him, and just guard the vicinity of the valley. Before he finished his sentence, he saw Xiao Budian raise his head in surprise. I didn't say I want to find Master. Zhu Yi said curiously, then I see you lowering your head and not saying anything. You don't seem to be in a good mood. Xiao Budian curled his lips. I'm thinking about where to play later. It's not easy for Master to not be by my side. Even if I cause some trouble, no one will criticize me. Xiao Yen and Zhu Yi were speechless at the same time. They looked at each other and shook their heads with a bitter smile. They were defeated by this brat. Xiao Budian smiled. Two senior brothers, let's go out for a walk. It's too boring to sit here and wait foolishly. Zhu Yi slightly furrowed his brows. Xiao Yen on the other hand was rather moved. He himself also has a flamboyant personality and has never been a person who follows the rules by the book. Xiao Yen saw that Zhu Yi didn't seem to care, so he smiled and said, Second junior brother, let's go together. Don't you always say that reading 10,000 books is not as good as walking 10,000 li? What do you mean by walking 10,000 li? It means you have to experience more things and see all kinds of people and things. It's not just about being busy on the road. Zhu Yi thought, the ancient scholars all traveled to different countries to spread knowledge and educate the people. At the same time, they also increased their knowledge and knowledge. Sitting quietly and reading books is cultivation. Observing the world is also cultivation. There is a path between heaven and earth, and there is also a path among the common people. They are all principles and should be understood. Thinking of this, Zhu Yi nodded happily. He had been reading for a long time and was rational and calm. He was more composed than most people of his age, but he was still a young man after all. He also had a curious and lively side. The three youths left the town together and headed for the Chuzhou city, which was hundreds of miles away. Chuzhou City was an important town in the southern border of the Great Qin dynasty. It had a dense population and developed commerce. The city was very lively. Xiao Yen and the other two wandered for a while and arrived at the market in the center of the city. The outskirts of the market were ordinary things that ordinary people ate and wore, but the center of the market was a world of all kinds of cultivation materials. The southern border of the Great Qin dynasty bordered the territory of the demons. While it was chaotic and dangerous, there were all kinds of rare treasures. Chuzhou City was the largest distribution center of all kinds of rare treasures in the southern border of the Great Qin dynasty. Walking in the market, the three of them looked around. Most of them were just strolling around. They couldn't afford the things they liked, and they didn't like the things that were too cheap. This thing. Xiao Yan suddenly stopped and looked at an item in a shop. It was huge and completely black, almost as long as he was. Zhu Yi and Xiao Budian noticed his strange behavior and also stopped. Xiao Budian smiled and said, "First senior brother, what do you like? Why are you so lost in thought? Let me have a look." He couldn't help but be speechless. Zhu Yi's curiosity was piqued by their reactions. He also walked over and was speechless after seeing the thing clearly. The thing that caught Xiao Yan's attention was an extremely huge black sword. Well, rather than saying it was a huge sword, it was more like a thick iron ruler without a sharp edge. The black sword didn't have a sword tip either. At the end of the sword, it seemed to have been cut in half by something, revealing a smooth cross-section that was as smooth as a mirror. On the surface of the huge pitch-black sword, there were blurry and strange patterns. The patterns extended to the hilt and almost covered every part of the sword. Coupled with its simple pitch-black color, it looked rather mysterious. Zhu Yi said with a stutter, "First senior brother, you like this thing?" Xiao Yan was puzzled. "I always feel that this thing seems to have some kind of connection with me. To borrow a phrase that Master often says, could it be that I am fated with this thing?" The little guy's expression was strange. After holding it in for a long time, he couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. Zhu Yi also smiled. Xiao Yan couldn't hold it in anymore. "You two brats, what are you laughing at?" I'm not laughing. The little guy hurriedly waved his hand, but the smile on his face couldn't be stopped. Xiao Yan patted his little head in embarrassment and annoyance. The little guy hurriedly hugged his head. "Don't pat me, I'm already becoming stupid letting Master pat me all the time. If first senior brother pat me again, you'll really become stupid." Xiao Yan laughingly scolded, "You might as well die of stupidity." Zhu Yi smiled at the side and said, "Since first senior brother likes it, then just buy it." Xiao Yan pondered for a moment and slowly nodded. The three of them didn't notice that on the street outside the shop, a gray-clothed man wearing a large bamboo hat suddenly opened his originally drooping eyelid. The light in his eyes exploded as he turned his head and stared at the shop Xiao Yan and the others were at. "This magic power undulation, it's the Thunder Shock Staff's magic power undulation. Buddha's mercy has finally let this disciple find a clue." Chapter 66. On the wide yellow dirt road, a black-clothed youth was walking with difficulty with his face covered in sweat. Every time the youth's foot landed, it was as if a heavy object had landed on the ground, heavily smashing into the ground and sending up a cloud of yellow dust. From a close distance, one could see that the black-clothed youth was actually carrying an extremely large black sword on his back. The huge sword did not have a sharp edge, nor did it have a sword point. Its length was almost longer than the youth's height. This strange combination caused many pedestrians in the market square to cast curious gazes at him. Beside the black-clothed youth, a young scholar dressed in green walked shoulder to shoulder with him. A child of only 4 or 5 years of age skipped ahead, occasionally turning his head to look at the black-clothed youth. The green-clothed scholar and the child both had strange expressions on their faces. They wanted to laugh but did not dare to. The black-clothed youth glared at them unhappily. He dragged his heavy feet and walked to a large tree on the side of the road. Walking to the bottom of the tree, the black-clothed youth directly faced the sky and fell head first onto the warm turf. The sweat on his forehead flowed down like a small stream. His 2 companions stood beside him and looked down at him. The smiles on their faces could no longer be maintained. The black-clothed youth was naturally Xiao Yan. Looking at the 2 junior brothers who had a smile that was not a smile, he snorted, "If you want to laugh then laugh. Be careful not to suffocate to death." Xiao Budian burst into a burst of crisp laughter. Zhu Yi also revealed a smile. Eldest senior brother, what do you think is fated with? Why do you have to be fated with such a heavy thing? Now you've suffered a lot, right? Xiao Yan scratched his head in vexation. I also didn't think that before. Let alone that this thing itself is so heavy, it can actually suppress the circulation of my mana. It's really going to tire me to death. Carrying this thing back to Hengyu Mountain, just thinking about it makes me feel terrified. Xiao Budian gloated. Eldest senior brother, what kind of sin did you commit in your previous life? Xiao Yin glared at him and said, On the way back to Hengyu Mountain, you and I will take turns. I used your medicinal pills to buy this thing. If you don't carry it, I won't be able to bring it back. I won't be returning the medicinal pills I owe you. Xiao Budian immediately became anxious. Senior brother, you're shameless. Xiao Yan smiled and said, I am, what can you do about it? You. The little guy was just about to speak when his expression suddenly changed. He turned his head to look behind him. Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi were also alarmed. They raised their eyes to look behind Xiao Budian, and saw a gray-clothed man wearing a large conical bamboo hat, silently standing not far away from them. The man in gray took off his bamboo hat, revealing a shiny bald head with 6 neat ring scars on his head. Why is Hui Ku's thundershock staff on you guys? Where is Hui Ku and where is the Saraira? The gray-clothed man slowly asked. His voice wasn't loud, but it seemed to resound in the three's hearts. The expressions of Xiao Yan and his fellow disciples all changed slightly. This gray-clothed monk was only calmly standing there, but it brought them a great amount of pressure. They didn't even dare to move a single finger. The three looked at each other, their minds rapidly turning. This monk's cultivation is unfathomable. Without master by his side, it's easy to be at a disadvantage if we fight recklessly. Xiao Budian's big black eyes turned, and he was the first to speak. It was given to our master by a great master, and then master passed it on to us. The gray-clothed monk glanced at Xiao Budian, his gaze revealing a hint of amazement. He could clearly see that Xiao Budian wasn't even 5 years old, but already had the cultivation of the 10th level of Qi disciple. I wonder which expert your respected master is? Subconsciously, the gray-clothed monk's tone became a bit more polite. To be able to teach such a universally shocking disciple like Xiao Budian, his master was definitely not an ordinary person. Xiao Budian shook his head. Master won't let us say. Xiao Yan looked at the gray-clothed monk, and asked in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, I wonder what advice great master has for me? The gray-clothed monk looked at him. The thundershock staff is on you, right? That's a Buddhist magic item. After a moment of silence, Xiao Yan said, The magic item was bestowed by my esteemed master. Without my esteemed master's permission, this junior doesn't dare to easily gift it to others. The gray-clothed monk's drooping eyelids suddenly opened, divine light erupted, and he stared straight at Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's mind was shaken, and he almost fainted. Under the gaze of the gray-clothed monk, Xiao Yan even felt a sense of guilt from his own sins. But his will was incomparably firm, and he forcibly stabilized his mind, and unyieldingly stared at the gray-clothed monk. Zhu Yi had been silent the entire time, but at this time, he soundlessly took a step forward, and stood side by side with Xiao Yan, directly facing the pressure brought by the gray-clothed monk. Xiao Budian's little face also sunk, and he stood together with his 2 senior brothers. The 3 of them stood shoulder to shoulder, facing the powerful opponent together. The gray-clothed monk's gaze flashed, his eyelids drooped again, and the pressure instantly disappeared. Xiao Yan and the other 2 all let out a sigh of relief at the same time, only now did they discover that their backs were already drenched in cold sweat. The monk who gave you the thundershock staff, do you know where he is right now? The gray-clothed monk thought for a bit and opened his mouth to ask. Xiao Budian answered first. I'm not sure, it's already been half a year since we met him. Half a year ago? The gray-clothed monk asked closely. Where did you meet him? Xiao Budian answered without hesitation. The great Zhou dynasty's capital city is near Tianjing. If Great Master wants to find someone, there's no harm in making a trip to Tianjing. The gray-clothed monk stared at the three for a while, then nodded and put his palms together. Namo Amitba, thank you, three young benefactors. Before he finished speaking, he had already disappeared from where he stood. Xiao Yan was slightly dazed. This monk is all bark and no bite, he left just like that? Xiao Budian unhappily said. Senior brother, don't tell me you want him to really make a move and cook the three of us together? Zhu Yi muttered to himself. This monk is very likely to make a comeback, let's go back and meet up with Master as soon as possible. Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian nodded at the same time, and the three of them hurriedly walked out of the city. There was a slight ripple in the air, and the gray-clothed monk's figure appeared, staring at their departing figures. Casting a long line, hopefully we can catch a big fish. The gray-clothed monk sighed softly, and followed behind the three of them. When Xiao Yan and the others left the city gates, they just happened to meet a group of people entering the city, brushing past the three of them. An old man in the group suddenly frowned, and approached the young man leading the group. Young Master Tian, this old servant just saw a child. Young Master Tian asked, What's wrong with a child? The old man replied, This old servant has seen that Shi Xiling once in the past. The child just now looked 70 to 80% similar to Shi Xiling. Yu Tian's eyes flashed. Are you sure? Shi Xiling was Shi Tianhao, and also Xiao Budian's father. The old man nodded. Young Master Tian knows that this old servant's eyes are the best at remembering people. That child looked at least 70 to 80% similar to Shi Xiling. If that child was still alive, he would be around this age. Yu Tian lowered his head and thought for a while, then ordered, Go, find 2 people to follow them and observe for a while. After finding their resting place, come back and report. In a small valley 100 li east of Hengyu Mountain, within the underworld Pearl, Lin Feng was operating the 24 Heaven Arhat formation, using boundless Buddhist light to forcefully refine Sikong Nan. The old ghost roared repeatedly, and continuously resisted. Although he couldn't control the underworld Pearl, he could borrow some of its power after living in it for a long time, so Lin Feng couldn't do anything to him for the time being. As Lin Feng operated the 24 Heaven Arhat formation, he also searched in the system. Ghost King Cannon. 100 Ghosts Night Walk. I got it, it's here. Chapter 67. Ghost King Cannon. 100 Ghosts Night Spell. Got it, found it, it's here. Lin Feng was excited and read the description. Ghost King Cannon was a secret spell of the 1,000 Ghost sect. It extracted the souls of countless ghosts, compressed them with a secret method, and released them instantly. It was one of the killing moves of the 1,000 Ghost sect. The Night of 100 Ghosts was a secret technique of the 1,000 Ghosts sect in the past. After killing the target, it could imprison the soul of the target and use a secret technique to refine a Een ghost. The Een ghost would hide in the user's mana and be released to attack the enemy when needed. The ghosts completely retained their cultivation when they were alive. The number of ghosts controlled was closely related to the user's cultivation. Lin Feng rolled his eyes. 1,000 Ghost Sect? It seemed to be a popular demon sect a few hundred years ago. It was later destroyed by the Shu Mountain Sword sect. The power structure of the Heaven Primal World was relatively stable. Besides the Great Zhou dynasty joining forces to destroy Buddhism 30 years ago, there was not much change. Before the Buddhist extermination incident, the 3 Holy Lands basically represented the strongest power in this world. Even during the Buddhist extermination incident, the figures of the Void Temple and the Mount Shu Sword sect were faintly discernible, otherwise the Great Thunder Monastery would not have been destroyed. Ever since the 3 Holy Lands came into power, the days of the demonic path sects had been very difficult. Basically, they were like rats that everyone wanted to beat up. Even if a few of them were ambitious and powerful, they would eventually be suppressed and annihilated. The Thousand Ghosts sect was a typical example. At its peak, it was far more powerful than normal sections. It was close to the Three Holy Land. It was the holy land of ghost cultivators and the leader of the demon sections. However, after a few top old devils in the sect passed away due to one reason or another, the sect could not avoid the fate of destruction in the end. A sword cultivator from the Mount Shu sword sect came to their door and killed the whole sect alone with a single sword, becoming one of the legendary stories of this sword cultivator's fierce life. Lin Feng glanced at Si Kongnan and suddenly asked, "You're from the Thousand Ghost sect?" Si Kongnan was stunned, then burst into laughter. "I didn't expect that someone still remembers the Thousand Ghost sect." "Yes, I'm the last elder of the Thousand Ghost sect, Si Kongnan." He smiled proudly. "Where did you hear the name of the Thousand Ghost sect?" Lin Feng said slowly, "I heard a friend mention it." Si Kongnan smiled and said, "At least you are knowledgeable." Lin Feng continued slowly, "In his sect, the legend of your Thousand Ghosts sect has been passed down." Si Kongnan was taken aback. He also came from a demonic path sect? "That's not it." Lin Feng shook his head, a smile as warm as the sun in spring appeared on his face. "My friend is called Lu Yang. He's a disciple of the Mount Shu sword sect. In his sect, there's always been a legend of a powerful senior who single-handedly destroyed your Thousand Ghost sect." Instantly, Si Kongnan fell silent. The next moment, the entire space within the underworld pearl trembled, and Si Kongnan's enraged roar reverberated. "I will kill you!" Lin Feng snickered to himself. The angrier Si Kongnan got, the more unstable his control of his mana became, and the more flaws he revealed. In fact, even the underworld pearl was rejecting him. Si Kongnan was immediately taught a lesson. He was suppressed by the 24 Heaven Arhat formation. At this time, he also knew that he had fallen into Lin Feng's trap. He quickly calmed down and fought against Lin Feng. The spiritual energy within the underworld pearl was extremely viscous, like lead mercury. Lin Feng had a hard time manipulating this spiritual energy. Moreover, after being in contact with this spiritual energy for a long time, Lin Feng found that his mana was showing signs of losing control. It wasn't like the blood river true water that polluted his mana. Instead, it had the tendency of restoring the mana that Lin Feng had painstakingly cultivated to normal, pure spiritual energy. Cultivators cultivated qi by absorbing the spiritual energy of the world into their bodies and transforming it into their own mana. However, the underworld pearl seemed to have a strange power that could reverse the transformation of spiritual energy and mana. It is precisely by borrowing this power that Si Kongnan was able to resist the refinement of Lin Feng's 24 Heaven Arhat formation's Buddhist light. After thinking about it, Lin Feng found that this treasure, the underworld pearl, was very likely related to the legendary underworld true water. It might even have been refined from the underworld true water. The underworld true water, like the blood river true water, was one of the 6 great true waters of the world. It originated from the underworld Yellow Springs, and was in existence closer to hell than the Nether Blood River. The underworld true water was also known as the Wanchuan River. The underworld true water was also known as the Unfeeling Water. Its power could purify everything in the world and restore it to its original state. If a person's soul came into contact with a bit of the underworld true water, they would lose all their memories. When mana came into contact with the underworld true water, it would also be restored to the purest spiritual energy of the world. Luckily, the underworld pearl seemed to have been heavily damaged and didn't have the true underworld true water in it. Otherwise, all of Lin Feng's mana would have already been cleanly refined by now. But the underworld pearl was refined from the underworld true water after all. It had some of the wondrous effects of the underworld true water, helping Sikong Nan resist Lin Feng's refinement. Lin Feng calculated in his heart, water and fire are incompatible. To restrain the underworld true water, I must have the 7 great true fires of the same level. I don't have the 7 great true fires on hand, but there's also no true underworld true water here. The fury of the Akala is one of the spiritual fires second only to the 7 great true fires. If I can cultivate the fury of the Akala, I will definitely be able to restrain the mana of the underworld pearl. Unfortunately, just like the Ksitigarbha golden body, Lin Feng still hasn't been able to cultivate the fury of the Akala divine ability. It's not that his talent isn't enough, it's that he who is only at the peak of Qi disciple, his Tao art realm is too low, not enough to cultivate the fury of the Akala. Lin Feng's gaze fell on the 24 golden arhats, thinking, maybe I can borrow their power. The 24 sariras that form the formation are all the remains and spiritual bones of the great Thunder Temple's Buddhist high monks. The cultivation of these Buddhist powerhouses, when they were alive, was far from as simple as foundation establishment stage. It's because Hui Ku's cultivation was only at foundation establishment stage that he was able to refine 24 foundation establishment stage arhat silhouettes. Now that they've fallen into Lin Feng's hands, following Lin Feng's Tao art realm increase, foundation establishment stage is still fine. If one day he can form the golden elixir and achieve golden elixir period cultivation, he can refine these sariras again and obtain 24 arhat silhouettes with the power of the golden elixir period. That would be the power that can penetrate through the heavens and penetrate through the earth. Lin Feng converted his own mana into the Buddhist fire mana of the art of Akala, then used the fire mana of the art of Akala to try and communicate with the 24 golden arhats. The 3 golden arhats reacted, resonating with Lin Feng's art of Akala's mana. Lin Feng's heart relaxed, knowing that he didn't guess wrong. The sariras that manifested these 3 golden arhats were high monks when they were alive. The Tao art they cultivated should also be the art of Akala. Lin Feng instantly smiled. Then it's easy, I'm only afraid that within the 24 of you, not a single one cultivates the art of Akala. Now there's actually 3, hee, old ghost, you're dead for sure. Lin Feng continuously poured the art of Akala's mana into the 3 arhat silhouettes. His mana sucked out the mana hidden within the sariras. The 3 arhat silhouettes instantly emitted raging flames and started to burn. The other arhats formed groups of 7, splitting into 3 teams, respectively surrounding and protecting the 3 flame arhats and endlessly supplying their mana to the 3 flame arhats. The 3 flame arhats put their palms together, chanting Buddhist mantras. The flames on their bodies surged into the sky, merging into one above their heads and turning into a raging sea of fire. A sense of alarm appeared in Sikong Nan's heart. He fearfully looked at the sea of fire above his head. Little bastard, what are you doing? Chapter 68. Under Lin Feng's control, the 24 golden arhats stood in 3 directions, surrounding Sikong Nan in the middle. The 3 flame arhats rose into the air. Below each flame arhat, there were 7 arhats holding them up, supplying a steady stream of Buddhist light to the flame arhat. The flames on the flame arhats grew bigger and bigger. They rushed into the sky and connected above Sikong Nan's head, turning into a sea of fire. Lin Feng's face was filled with anger. He stared and shouted, "My Buddha is merciful, transforming into anger and anger. Unleash endless anger, destroy all demons, and burn everything." Rumble. The entire space of the underworld pearl shook. Then, an angry golden Buddha with 4 faces and 8 arms slowly rose from the sea of fire. There was a closed vertical eye between the Buddha's brows. The golden Buddha chanted deafeningly. Amidst the Buddhist chants, the vertical eye between the Buddha's brows opened. From the vertical eye, a milky white flame shot out. The milky white flame looked extremely fragile, as if it could be extinguished by a gust of wind. Seeing this, Sikong Nan was terrified. Wisdom monarch! You actually cultivated the fury of the Akalanatha. The milky white flame burned in the air. Wherever the flame went, the space began to collapse and disintegrate. Lin Feng pointed with his finger. The milky white flame instantly turned into a straight line and shot towards Sikong Nan. Wherever the line of fire passed, the underworld pearl's power to purify everything was instantly destroyed. It could not stop the line of fire from advancing. When the line of fire hit the black fog protecting Sikong Nan's body, it was like a spark splashing into a pot of oil. Boom! The black fog was completely annihilated and burned, turning Sikong Nan into a flaming man. Whether it was the underworld pearl's power or Sikong Nan's power, at this moment, they all became fuel for the fire, fueling it. The fury of the Akalanatha. Within the flames, there was an incomparable anger. Even a Buddha would get angry, burning all angry thoughts. Even if they were both flames, as long as they were not the 7 great true fires, they would all be burned by the fury of the Akalanatha. Sikong Nan finally felt the threat of death. His heart was filled with fear. When a tiger falls to the plains, it will be bullied by a dog. This old man has actually been reduced to being ridden on by such a junior. If it was in the past, I would have crushed him to death with a single finger. At this juncture, I can't care so much anymore. Even if this old man dies, I will drag you down with me. Sikong Nan roared, "Little bastard, let's die together." As he roared, a low rumble came from the depths of the underworld pearl's space. Lin Feng frowned slightly and listened attentively. It seemed to be the sound of flowing water. This is... Lin Feng's expression changed drastically as he thought of something, but it was already too late to react. The sound of flowing water grew louder and louder. In the end, it turned into a loud rumbling sound, as if a dam had burst. A long river with a dim yellow color and transparent water rushed straight down, pouncing towards Lin Feng and Sikong Nan together. Lin Feng cursed under his breath, F***CK. As it turned out, it wasn't that the underworld pearl didn't have any underworld true water. On the contrary, there was a huge amount of underworld true water stored inside. However, because Sikong Nan had never been able to refine and control the underworld pearl, the underworld true water was like a scourge to him. He didn't dare to touch it easily. But at this moment, he had been forced into a dead end by Lin Feng. Naturally, he let go of all his worries and simply summoned the underworld true water to take Lin Feng down with him. Lin Feng's expression was ugly. The immovable deity true fire that he controlled was only a small flame. Facing so much underworld true water, it wouldn't even be able to make a single wave before being swallowed. Sikong Nan laughed wildly and was the first to be swallowed by the surging true water of the Yellow Springs. Lin Feng could clearly see that the flames surrounding him were all extinguished the moment they came into contact with the true water of the Yellow Springs. Seeing this, the corners of Lin Feng's eyes twitched. He looked around and urgently tried to think of a solution. Suddenly, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He saw a huge transparent ball of light floating on the surging underworld true water. Within the ball of light sat a skinny young man. It was Wang Lin. That's Wang Lin's divine soul. Lin Feng immediately understood. Without hesitation, he jumped onto the ball of light. It was like stepping on a small boat, moving forward with the surging underworld river. This was the only time Lin Feng had the time to observe Wang Lin inside the ball of light. He saw that Wang Lin's eyes were closed and he was unconscious. He didn't react to Lin Feng's arrival at all. Lin Feng's eyes moved. He sat cross-legged on top of the ball of light, right above Wang Lin's head. The two of them were like bunk beds. The ball of light floated with the water. After floating for an unknown distance, a black stone pillar suddenly appeared in the middle of the river. The ball of light hit the black stone pillar but didn't bounce off. Instead, it stuck tightly to the stone pillar. Lin Feng stared at the black stone pillar and observed it for a while. He reached out and touched the stone pillar. Instantly, a large portion of the incantation flowed into his mind. This is the underworld nirvana technique? This is the incantation to refine the underworld pearl? Lin Feng's heart moved. So that's how it is, so that's how it is. After Wang Lin wakes up, he will obtain the underworld nirvana technique here and comprehend the Tao, technique, and divine abilities contained within the underworld pearl and then completely refine this treasure. With the underworld pearl in hand, even that old ghost Sikong Nan can't do anything to him. With treasures and incantations, Wang Lin, this hidden dragon, should ascend to the heavens. He'll step onto the golden path that will kill all gods and Buddhas that stand in his way. This was probably the path that Wang Lin should have walked to become the son of heaven. Lin Feng chuckled. Since such a good thing happened to him, he naturally wouldn't hold back. Lin Feng didn't plan on taking away the opportunity that should have belonged to Wang Lin, but he couldn't let Wang Lin comprehend the underworld nirvana technique on his own and refine the underworld pearl on his own. Letting him, the master, teach him the incantation and guide him in refining the treasure was the right pace. Thinking about this, Lin Feng smiled and calmed down. He began to seriously comprehend the mysteries of the underworld nirvana technique that came from the black stone pillar. Inside the underworld pearl was a consciousness space that didn't have a physical body. The space was extremely vast. At a place extremely far away from the black stone pillar, a figure suddenly floated up from the raging underworld river. It was Sikong Nan. However, the current Sikong Nan was very different from before. He was no longer shrouded in black fog and ghastly qi. Instead, his entire body had turned into the same dim yellow color as the underworld real water. His body was also translucent. The old ghost's aura had also become the same as the underworld real water. Within the calmness, there was an aura of annihilation and purification. Although I'm not dead, my life is worse than death. I was actually refined by this treasure, the underworld pearl. I can't leave this underworld pearl for the rest of my life. Sikong Nan's face was twisted and full of resentment. However, this is also a blessing in disguise. Not only do I no longer have to fear this underworld real water, I can even control it. Silently, Sikong Nan sensed for a moment. The underworld real water carried his body and rushed towards the direction of the black stone pillar. You two juniors, you're dead for sure this time. Xiao Yan and the other two walked on the road in a hurry, returning to Hingyu Mountain together. Xiao Budian suddenly blinked his eyes and said in a low voice, "Two senior brothers, someone is following us." The huge black sword on Xiao Yan's back suppressed his magic power. It made it difficult for him to even travel, and he didn't have any spare energy to sense his surroundings. Hearing Xiao Budian's words, he controlled the urge to turn his head and look behind him. Quietly, he glanced at Zhu Yi from the corner of his eyes. Zhu Yi also didn't act rashly. Instead, he quietly spread out his magic power to investigate. After a moment, Zhu Yi nodded almost imperceptibly. There is indeed someone. His cultivation is only at the qi refinement stage. He's not that great master just now. Xiao Budian's big black eyes turned. Just now, when we left Chuzhou City, there was a group of people walking towards us. There was an old man among them. I don't know why, but he kept staring at me. Could he be with him? After a moment of silence, Xiao Yan said decisively, "Find a place ahead and get rid of them." Chapter 69. After knowing that they were being followed, Xiao Yan was silent for a moment, then decisively said, "Find a place in front and get rid of them." He was now carrying the huge black sword on his back, so his movement speed was as slow as a turtle's crawl. If he allowed the people following them to expose their whereabouts, the enemy's main force would quickly catch up to them. Xiao Budian and Zhu Yi looked at each other and slightly nodded. They were both decisive people, and could not tolerate people with bad intentions following behind them. Having reached a tacit understanding, the three Marshall brothers no longer talked and did not deliberately speed up. However, they gradually deviated from their original route and quietly turned into a dense forest on the side of the road. At this time, the two Yu family cultivators who were following them revealed themselves and hurriedly chased into the forest. With the huge black sword on his back, Xiao Yan's figure was extremely heavy. Every step he took left a footprint on the ground, so the two Yu family cultivators were not afraid of losing him. One of the taller cultivators muttered as he walked, "Why does young Master Tian want us to follow these three brats? It's a complete waste of time." The shorter cultivator shushed him and said in a low voice, "Whatever young master says, we'll do it. Don't talk so much nonsense." As he said that, the footprints in front of them suddenly disappeared. The two cultivators reacted quickly and immediately knew that something was wrong and that they had most likely been exposed. Before they could react further, the dense foliage above their heads rustled. The two of them subconsciously looked up and heard a "whoo" sound. A huge black sword had already filled their vision. Xiao Yan grabbed the huge black iron sword and descended from the sky. Holding the sword hilt with both hands, he chopped down with astonishing power. However, the huge black iron sword was too heavy, so Xiao Yan could not nimbly brandish it. The power of the sword was truly astonishing, but the two Yu family cultivators revealed a disdainful smile. The two of them lightly jumped back together and escaped the attack range of the huge black iron sword. The huge sword was too heavy, so Xiao Yan could not change his direction and could only watch as the two of them avoided the tip of the sword. However, Xiao Yan did not care and even had the time to laugh at the two Yu family cultivators. His smile baffled the other two, but in the next moment, their scalps suddenly went numb, and their hair stood on end, as if a disaster was about to befall them. Xiao Budian carried the hammer-like white bone hammer and silently appeared behind the short cultivator. With a skill that couldn't be any more skillful, he knocked on the back of the short cultivator's head with a dong sound. The short cultivator let out a blood-curdling scream as he saw stars in front of his eyes. He struggled to turn around, forcing himself to focus and not lose consciousness. But just as he turned around, before he could see anything clearly, a white shadow flashed before his eyes and another hammer smashed down on his head. The short cultivator's eyelids rolled, and he no longer had the strength to struggle. He simply lay down on his back and fainted. Xiao Budian's two consecutive strikes were really fast, accurate, and ruthless. He had already practiced it to the point of perfection. Even if Lin Feng was here, he couldn't help but sigh. This kid really had a talent in this promising career of knocking out people. Zhu Yi and the tall cultivator, who were still fighting at the side, also slowed down and looked at Xiao Budian at the same time. Xiao Budian, this extremely cute little boy with red lips and white teeth, looked too out of place when he used such a fierce, violent, and skillful knocking out people. This kid didn't even realize it himself. Instead, he was proud of himself and said to Zhu Yi with a smile, "Second senior brother, this is our sect's secret technique, specially used to capture opponents alive. When Master taught you, you were not even initiated, so you didn't have time to learn it. Later, I will show you again. Once you learn it, you won't have to go through so much trouble next time." Zhu Yi's 10 years of hard work finally broke down at this moment. The corner of his mouth twitched as he shook his head. I don't think I should learn it." Looking at this little guy who had the highest cultivation among his fellow disciples, but was willing to call himself the little junior brother, Zhu Yi actually felt a slight chill on his back. The tall cultivator looked at Xiao Budian, and his eyes were even straighter. Was this still a child who was not even 5 years old? If so, why did he have such a high cultivation? More importantly, why did he have such a thick skin? What kind of sect's secret technique was used to capture opponents alive? It was basically a sneak attack to stun them with a stick. The short cultivator had already fainted. If he woke up and understood the truth of the matter, he would definitely be like the tall cultivator at this moment, with billions of ancient Tyrannosaurus dragons running wildly in his heart. Xiao Yin grasped the huge black iron sword in his hand in distress and said to Zhu Yi, "Second junior brother, don't listen to his nonsense. Master was just joking with him, and this kid took it seriously. Or should I say, he clearly knows that Master was joking, but this move is too much to this brat's liking, so now he is using Master's name to swagger around the city." Xiao Budian laughed happily at the side, while Zhu Yi smiled bitterly and shook his head. "I can't use this thing when fighting with people for a short period of time." Xiao Yen sighed and let go of the huge black iron sword, raising yellow dust on the ground. The next moment, Xiao Yan's figure flashed and disappeared from where he was standing. "Let's attack together and finish this quickly." The tall cultivator was stunned. He saw that Xiao Yan suddenly appeared in front of him, and the cultivation that was previously suppressed by the huge black iron sword completely burst out, punching towards the tall cultivator's face. Awkwardly dodging Xiao Yan's punch, the tall cultivator only felt a chill on his neck, and a long sword was already held against his neck. The long sword was held in Zhu Yi's hand. The green-robed scholar had one hand behind his back, and his expression was indifferent. "It's better if you don't move. We already have a survivor, whether you leave or not depends on your performance." At the mention of a survivor, looking at the short cultivator who was still unconscious on the ground, Zhu Yi's eyebrows twitched a few times, and he unhappily looked at Xiao Budian. Xiao Budian walked over with a smile and asked, "Okay, tell me, why are you following us?" The tall cultivator wanted to open his mouth to talk nonsense, but when he saw Xiao Budian's bright eyes and then saw Xiao Budian weighing the white bone hammer in his hand, he suddenly felt a chill on the back of his head. He could only bite the bullet and say, "I'm a cultivator from the Yu family. If you're smart, you'd better let us go, otherwise you'll suffer." The smile on Xiao Budian's face gradually disappeared, and he didn't say anything. Silently, he looked at the tall cultivator. This person never thought that he would be stared at by a 4- or 5-year-old child. Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi looked at each other, and Zhu Yi softly said, "Is it sure Tianyi's maternal grandfather's family?" Xiao Yan calmly nodded. Zhu Yi turned his head to look at the tall cultivator. "A person who helps the evildoer directly behead him." The tall cultivator's heart went cold, and when he looked at Xiao Budian's expressionless little face, his courage suddenly disappeared. But he was only following orders, and he didn't know why he was following Xiao Budian. Xiao Budian and the other two quickly reacted. After knocking the tall cultivator unconscious, Xiao Yan said in a deep voice, "Did they recognize little junior brother?" Zhu Yi nodded. "It's very likely. Maybe they can't be sure, so they only sent these two to follow, but they must have some suspicions." Xiao Budian lowered his head. "I'm a burden to you guys." Xiao Yan waved his hand and said indifferently, "What are you talking about? We're fellow disciples, there's nothing to be a burden about." He looked at the black iron sword on the ground and scratched his head in distress. "If you're talking about a burden, it's me who's a burden to you guys. Is there any way to take this thing and walk faster without leaving any traces?" Xiao Yan frowned. "The three of us spent all our money on this thing. It's a pity to throw it away." Hearing this, Zhu Yi and Xiao Budian also frowned. Chapter 70. In the mountain stream, a bamboo raft floated down. On the bamboo raft sat a green-robed scholar and a 4- or 5-year-old child. The two sat on the bamboo raft. Other than controlling the direction of the bamboo raft, not only did they not speed up, they were controlling the bamboo raft to not drift too fast with the current. A few bubbles suddenly appeared in the water beside the bamboo raft. Then, a black-clothed youth dashed out of the water, lightly landed on the bamboo raft, and greedily breathed in the fresh air. "If only I had Master's black cloud flag, then I wouldn't have to use so much effort." The black-clothed youth was naturally Xiao Yan. The magic power in his body revolved, and steam rose from his body, instantly evaporating his clothes. Zhu Yi said, "There's no point in saying that now. Although this method is still very slow, at least we won't expose our whereabouts." The little guy jumped up from the raft and smiled. "It's my turn." He dived into the water and dived to the bottom. Xiao Yan's huge black iron sword sank into the sand and stones at the bottom of the water, dragging a perfectly straight line at the bottom of the water. The little guy grabbed the huge black iron sword. The weight was secondary, the key was that his magic power had become stagnant. He thought, "Eldest senior brother's item is really strange. Although it's a burden, it's a pity to throw it away. I should bring it back to master to take a look." Then, the little guy hung the huge black iron sword at the bottom of the water and dragged it between the sand and stones. He raised his head to look at the bamboo raft above his head to determine his direction. On the bamboo raft, Xiao Yan laughed bitterly. "I'm throwing my life away for money, right?" Zhu Yi smiled slightly. "Master often says there are always more solutions than difficulties. Although it's simple, it's very reasonable." The three of them stared blankly in the forest for a long time. Finally, they thought of a method that wasn't really a solution. They used the waterway to hide their tracks. However, the huge black iron sword was too heavy. The small boat and the bamboo raft couldn't carry it at all, so they could only take turns to drag it underwater. Just a dozen li behind the three of them, a group of people was chasing along the stream. The leading young man was Yu Tian, a direct descendant of the Yu family. He was handsome, but his face was extremely gloomy. "This mountain stream has countless branches. If we keep chasing like this, it's very easy to go the wrong way." He turned and walked to the back of the group. There was a simple black-clothed old man resting with his eyes closed. He was being carried by a few Yu family servants. Yu Tian respectfully saluted. "Elder Yu, please make a move. This is very important to the family." The eyelids of the black-clothed old man who was called Elder Yu did not even twitch as he said indifferently, "I'm only responsible for protecting your safety. I don't care about anything else." Yu Tian frowned slightly, but did not dare to persuade him any further. He could only retreat to the side, thinking, why did the clan send this old monster over, so unlucky? He didn't dare to say these words out loud. Instead, he looked at Yuelao with a fearful expression, then hurriedly lowered his head and turned to leave. The black-robed old man did not exude any aura of dermic powers. However, as he sat there with his eyes closed, he was like an immovable mountain. The bamboo raft turned around a bend in the river, and their field of vision widened. Zhu Yi stood at the front of the bamboo raft and gazed into the distance. "Next we have to return to land or else the direction will become more and more off." Xiao Yan nodded his head and used his mana to send a message to Xiao Budian. Then he jumped onto the shore with Zhu Yi. Xiao Budian also dragged the huge black iron sword out of the water, returning the huge black iron sword to Xiao Yan. He walked while recovering his mana. Zhu Yi asked, "There are pursuers behind us. Do we still return to Hingyu Mountain and wait, or do we directly go find Master?" Xiao Yan pondered. Before he had time to reply, an aged voice suddenly sounded. "Young Master Yi has already taken someone else as master? This is really not good. The Marquis once said that before young Master Yi learns the scriptures well, you can't practice martial arts." The expressions of Zhu Yi and his fellow apprentices changed at the same time. Zhu Yi's eyebrows twitched, calmly calling out, "Mr. Tao Heir. The person who came is a wizened and skinny old man. He is precisely the second steward of the house of the Marquis of Xuanji, Mr. Tao Heir." Following the appearance of Mr. Tao Heir, more and more cultivators of the house of the Marquis walked out from the forest behind him. Tao Heir carefully sized up Zhu Yi, revealing an expression of admiration. "Not even half a year and you've reached Qi Disciple level 6. Young Master Yi has such great talent, no wonder the blood of the Marquis flows in your veins." But you disobeyed the orders of the Marquis. This is not good. Yu took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Father's cultivation is high, that is his ability. My cultivation today came from my own hard work and my master's teachings. Tao Er shook his head. Young master, he doesn't understand. The Marquis is a just person and has 1,000 merits. His arrangements are definitely correct. You only need to follow the path the Marquis has arranged for you. Hearing this, not only Zhu Yi, Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian also frowned. Tao Er didn't care at all, continuing to slowly say, The reason I came out this time, one is to investigate the disappearance of Huang San, the other is to find young Master Yi. Zhu Yi calmly said, Huang San and the others died at the hands of the Golden Elixir period cultivator Liu Yang of the Mount Shu Sword Sect. I saw it with my own eyes. Mount Shu Sword Sect. Tao Er nodded his head, then asked, Then young Master Yi, how did you escape? Where are those traitors of the Society of the Strong Gale? Zhu Yi answered, The people of the Society of the Strong Gale escaped through the teleportation formation. My master saved me. After that I've been learning the Tao from my master. Tao Er made a sound of N. Since that's the case, then we can only leave it at that for now. Young Master Yi, you can follow me home right now. You've been away from home for so many days. The Marquis and the Madam both miss you a lot. Silently Zhu Yi said, I want to learn the Tao from my master. In the future when I'm successful I'll naturally go back. Tao Er smiled. Young master, you must be joking, even though you're not the Marquis's legitimate son and can't learn the Marquis's great Tao, but the Marquis will naturally arrange a suitable master for you. There's no need for you to find a master yourself. So, young master, you follow me back to Tianjing right now. Tao Er said as a matter of fact. If you're worried that your master won't be clear, then I'll help you talk to him. If he really is a great master, then he'll definitely understand reason. How can he bear to separate his disciple from his parents? Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian's expressions changed slightly. Just as they were about to move, they were stopped by Zhu Yi. Zhu Yi looked up at Tao Er and calmly said, Master has saved my life and taught me, a teacher for a day, a teacher for a lifetime. I appreciate Mr. Tao Er's kindness. Please report back to my father. One day I will definitely return to Tianjing, but not now. Tao Er fixed his eyes on Zhu Yi and sighed. Young Master Yi is usually the most filial, but now you've been led down the evil path. It's clear that your master is definitely an evil person. May I ask young Master Yi to tell me where he is now? This old servant has gotten rid of this evil person. Such an evil person should be crippled of his cultivation, drowned in a cesspit and paraded through the streets to warn the world. Not only Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian were angry, even Zhu Yi's face darkened, but Tao Er continued to say, Also, before I left, the Marquis instructed that if I find young Master Yi, I must bring young Master Yi back safely. The Marquis's orders must be completed. As he spoke, the group of cultivators from the house of the Marquis of Xuanji behind him had already spread out, surrounding Zhu Yi and the other two in the middle. The hearts of Zhu Yi and the other two instantly sunk to the bottom. Within the underworld pearl, at the center of the river, Wang Lin, who was in the ball of light, still has not awakened. Lin Feng silently sat on the ball of light, his mind still seriously trying to figure out the underworld nirvana technique scripture on the black stone pillar. In the distance, the underworld true water suddenly made a crashing sound. The surging underworld true water carried a figure that was rapidly approaching. The figure was precisely Sikong Nan. When he saw Lin Feng, he instantly laughed loudly. Junior, the humiliation you gave me before, I will now return it to you 100-fold. Chapter 71. Sikong Nan waved his hands and the surging yellow spring's true water whizzed towards Lin Feng, turning into a monstrous wave and crashing down. Lin Feng was at a critical moment in his comprehension of the yellow spring's nirvana technique. Sikong Nan's sudden interruption made Lin Feng extremely annoyed. 24 relics floated above Lin Feng's head, the surging Buddhist light turning into a golden cloud that supported the Yellow Spring's true water falling from the sky. The magic power cultivated from Buddhism was the thickest and most condensed. Even the Yellow Spring's true water could not dissolve it in a short time. But the golden cloud was still melting at a speed visible to the naked eye. It would not last much longer. Sikong Nan sneered at Lin Feng. "Let me see how long you can last." As he spoke, he urged the Yellow Spring's true water to attack Lin Feng. Lin Feng furrowed his brows, communicating with the baby Taotai Tunten in his ring. "I don't want it!" Tunten shrieked, shaking its head like a drum as it shouted in exasperation. "You're too bad, you want me to drink the Yellow Spring's true water?" Lin Feng chuckled. "It doesn't matter if you refuse, but I have to make it clear to you first. Other than this thing, there's nothing else I can give you to eat in a short time. If you don't want it, you can go hungry." Tunten hesitated. Lin Feng saw her expression and asked, "You've drunk the Yellow Spring's true water before?" "Yes, it tasted very good." Tunten hesitated for a moment before saying, "But my head felt dizzy after drinking it, and I couldn't remember many things in the past." Lin Feng clicked his tongue. The Taotai was indeed one of the 4 ancient ferocious beasts. It could swallow the heavens and the earth, and was not even afraid of the tyrannical Yellow Spring's true water. It only lost some memories, and its magic power was not purified. "What are you afraid of? Everything is good if it tastes good. Food is delicious." Lin Feng kept persuading. Tunten's expression grew more and more conflicted. She knew that Lin Feng did not have good intentions, but her gluttonous instincts could not be restrained. For a Taotai, eating was an instinctive reaction on the same level as survival. "I don't care anymore. I'll eat my fill first. I'm going to starve to death for more than half a year." Finally, the little lowly shouted in annoyance. Her body had already changed back into the original form of Taotai. Lin Feng tossed the ring into the air, and removed the heaven cage sigil within it. A huge suction force immediately came from the ring and swallowed the Yellow Spring's true water like a black hole. While the Buddhist light and the ring blocked the river water, Lin Feng seized the opportunity to comprehend the netherworld nirvana technique. While he was trying to figure out the Tao, he was also trying to communicate with the netherworld water. Just like how the art of Akala cultivated the rage of the Akala, the art of Yellow Springs cultivated the art of Yellow Springs cultivated the true water of the Yellow Springs. Comparing the two, combining theory with practice, many of the questions that had been bothering Lin Feng were suddenly cleared up. In his mind, it was as if there was a long river surging past. The river water flowed endlessly, like time itself, unstoppable and unstoppable. Silently, Lin Feng looked at his own reflection in the river water. The reflection was not his fixed appearance, but constantly changing into all kinds of images. There was a beautiful newlywed girl, there was an old man with one foot in the grave, there was a Buddhist monk chanting Buddhist scriptures, there was a thief who licked blood on the edge of a blade, there was a handsome and elegant young man. One after another, small fragments, thousands of reincarnations. A layer of understanding rose in Lin Feng's mind. This is my previous life, the life before that, the countless reincarnations of my previous life. The Yellow Springs reincarnation, nirvana rebirth, all living things walk towards death and decay here, and then be reborn. Mysterious life and death reincarnation, the path of nirvana resounded in Lin Feng's mind, ultimately fusing into one. Even the magic power in his body formed a line, as if there was a Yellow Springs river flowing silently in the netherworld. Lin Feng opened his eyes, looking at the surging true water of the Yellow Springs in front of him, a faint smile appearing on his face. Seeing his smile, Sikong Nan's heart trembled for no reason, as if a great disaster was about to befall him. The cross-legged sitting Lin Feng suddenly stood up, retrieving Tunten's ring. The Buddha light and golden cloud above his head rose into the air, no longer blocking the true water of the yellow springs, allowing the endless river water to fall on his body. Sikong Nan's eyes widened. He was shocked to find that the true water of the yellow springs had fallen on Lin Feng's body, but Lin Feng was unharmed. Not a single drop of the true water of the yellow springs touched his body. Instead, it fell docilely at Lin Feng's feet, lifting Lin Feng up. The true water of the yellow springs that purified and killed all living things in the world was now like a docile servant, obediently kneeling at Lin Feng's feet, lifting Lin Feng up like a king. At this moment, the Buddha light above Lin Feng's head shone eternally, and the yellow springs river flowed endlessly under his feet. With the heavens above his head and the yellow springs under his feet, Sikong Nan blankly stared at this scene. How is this possible? Lin Feng smiled. Why is it impossible? He swept a glance at Sikong Nan and said with a smile, "Come down." With this order, the true water of the yellow springs that lifted Sikong Nan's body suddenly fell. Being caught off guard, Sikong Nan fell directly into the raging yellow springs river. Sikong Nan was shocked. Having been completely refined by the yellow springs pearl, all of his arcane energy had fused with the true water of the yellow springs. He could no longer use his skills and technique. If he couldn't control the true water of the yellow springs, he would be like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Unfortunately, no matter how hard he tried, the true water of the yellow springs had no reaction. Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry to make a move. He only looked at Sikong Nan with a faint smile. At this moment, Sikong Nan felt as if someone had poured a bucket of cold water over him. He felt a chill from head to toe, and despair rose in his heart. He roared like a trapped beast. "Even so, you can't do anything to me. I've become one with the yellow springs pearl. Unless you destroy the yellow springs pearl, you can't kill me. With your cultivation, you can't destroy the yellow springs pearl." "Who said I want to destroy the yellow springs pearl? To destroy such a treasure so easily, isn't that a reckless waste of God's gifts?" Lin Feng chuckled and shook his head. "Plus, who told you that I can only kill you if I destroy the yellow springs pearl?" Sikong Nan was stunned. He had a bad feeling. In the next moment, he suddenly felt the true water of the yellow springs around him become thicker and thicker. It was so heavy that he couldn't breathe. The originally murky yellow water slowly turned black. The black true water of the yellow springs kept invading Sikong Nan's soul. Sikong Nan felt like he was drowning. Lin Feng said leisurely, "You don't know, right? The yellow springs nirvana technique has given birth to a technique called the netherworld puppet manipulation. It can use the true water of the yellow springs to refine people into puppets. This puppet is different from your 100 ghosts walk in the night. You refine people into malicious spirits and only retain their arcane energy and cultivation from when they were alive. However, their memories and intelligence are wiped away, leaving only resentment and murderous intent. Although it's easy to control, it's still inferior." Lin Feng chuckled and said, "My netherworld puppet manipulation technique can refine people into puppets. Not only can they retain their memories from when they were alive, but they will also retain their self-awareness." Retaining their memories from when they were alive meant that the puppet not only had their arcane energy and cultivation from when they were alive, but their techniques would also be preserved. They would also have the rich battle experience of a cultivator when they were alive. Retaining their self-awareness meant that they had intelligence, could think, and could adapt flexibly. Sikong Nan's heart grew colder and colder. Lin Feng looked at him and smiled. "Simply put, you're the same as before you were turned into a puppet, except for one thing. That is, you will unconditionally obey any order I give you." Sikong Nan roared in despair. His originally murky yellow, almost transparent soul was completely dyed black by the true water of the yellow springs. Then, it was swallowed by the raging river and sealed at the bottom of the river. After suppressing Sikong Nan, Lin Feng's mind finally relaxed. His heart slightly moved, and he looked down at the ball of light under his feet. In the ball of light, Wang Lin's soul moved and finally woke up. He opened his eyes with a blank expression. Chapter 72. Wang Lin, who was in the ball of light, finally woke up. He looked around and saw Sikong Nan roaring in despair as he was swallowed by the Yellow Springs water. Thinking back to when Sikong Nan wanted to kill him, Wang Lin was slightly shocked. He raised his head and saw a young man wearing a white robe and a crown made of feathers and stars smiling at him. The young Taoist in the white robe had a golden cloud above his head, and the yellow springs flowed endlessly under his feet. He looked like an immortal, making Wang Lin feel ashamed of his own inferiority. Wang Lin slowly remembered the last scene he saw before he fainted. It was this immortal descending from the sky, forcing Sikong Nan to retreat and saving him. Now, it seemed that Sikong Nan had been killed and he was saved. Wang Lin hurriedly said, "I was rude earlier and let down Immortal Master's good intentions. Now that Immortal Master has saved me, I am ashamed." Lin Feng thought to himself, "It's good that you know." But on the surface, he only smiled faintly. "Silly boy, it's good that you are fine. It's just a small matter, it's nothing to me." Wang Lin paused, his face showing an awkward expression. He wanted to say something, but he was too embarrassed to do so. Lin Feng knew what he was thinking and smiled. "Are you still willing to be my disciple?" Wang Lin knelt on the ground. "I didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and disrespected Immortal Master. I am grateful that Immortal Master didn't abandon me and even saved my life. I am willing to be Immortal Master's disciple and listen to your orders. Please accept me." Lin Feng looked up to the sky and sighed. He was actually more excited than Wang Lin. Finally! At this moment, Lin Feng even had the urge to cry. There were actually only 5 days left from the 1-year mission deadline. If he dragged on for another 5 days and couldn't complete the mission, then with the system's annoying nature, it definitely wouldn't go easy on him. It would definitely kill him if it said so. The system notifications kept ringing in his ears. It was like the sound of an immortal, unprecedentedly beautiful. "Congratulations to the host for accepting the 4th disciple, Wang Lin. The host has received 1 lucky draw ticket and 500 exchange points. Congratulations to the host for completing the 1st main mission. Special reward for main mission released." Lin Feng really wanted to take a look at his mission reward first, but Wang Lin was still eagerly looking at him in front of him. Lin Feng could only forcefully suppress his excitement, saying with an indifferent expression, "This underworld pearl is a rare treasure, keep it for yourself and study the mysteries within." Wang Lin's mouth moved but he didn't make a sound. Lin Feng knew what he was thinking when he saw this. He smiled and said, "This treasure is good but I don't care about it. This is your own opportunity, treasure it." You also have 3 martial brothers. Once you meet them, you will understand that although I will impart all of my knowledge to you, how far you can go on this path of cultivation in the future will still depend on your own efforts. Wang Lin thought, that Sikong Nan is so evil, but Master can easily kill him. Master doesn't care about the treasure that I value as much as my life. Although I don't know what Master's cultivation is, it must be very high. Cultivating with Master is better than being a servant in the Hengyu sect. With that thought, Wang Lin's heart was burning. Dad, Mom, I will definitely work hard. I will definitely become an immortal. Lin Feng was currently looking at the system's information on Wang Lin. Name, Wang Lineage, 15 years and 6 months. Current cultivation. Guiding Qi into the body, about to reach Qi Disciple Level 1. Potential attribute. Root Bone, 5, Comprehension, 10, Will, 10, Luck, 8. Recommended education plan. Recommended to cultivate water-type Dao techniques or demonic Dao technique. Recommended to focus on spells as the main direction of development. Note: Root bone talent is low, so it will be difficult to cultivate in the early stages. However, it will not be easy to reach a bottleneck when advancing to the next stage. Right now Lin Feng has 2 water Dao techniques on hand. One is the Blue Ocean River technique, and the other is the Underworld Nirvana technique. The latter is much stronger than the former, and it should have originally belonged to Wang Lin's fortuitous encounter. With the assistance of the Underworld Pearl, it should be able to help Wang Lin pass through the difficult early stages of cultivation as quickly as possible. After teaching Wang Lin the Yellow Springs Nirvana art, Wang Lin completely refined the Yellow Springs Pearl. Inside the Yellow Springs Pearl, he was the absolute master. Even Lin Feng could only protect himself. However, Wang Lin did not look proud at all. He understood that this was all an arrangement made by Lin Feng to nurture him. Although Wang Lin seemed quiet, he valued kindness, friendship, and enmity very much. Today, Lin Feng saved his life, took him in as a disciple, and gave him a fateful encounter. He firmly remembered this kindness in his heart. Wang Lin refined the Yellow Springs Pearl. Under Lin Feng's guidance, his spirit left the Yellow Springs Pearl and returned to his physical body. At this time, Lin Feng completely retracted his spirit from the Yellow Springs Pearl. He looked at Wang Lin and nodded in satisfaction. He had gained a lot this time. He had taken Wang Lin, the Son of Heaven, as his disciple, cultivated a top-grade Dao technique like the Yellow Springs Nirvana art, mastered the spell Netherworld puppet manipulation, and refined an old devil into a puppet. However, although the Netherworld puppet manipulation was good, it had its flaws. For example, it could only be refined when the other party's physical body was destroyed and only the spirit was left. Moreover, after refining the Netherworld puppet manipulation, the puppet was actually equivalent to a dead person. Its cultivation was fixed when it was alive and could not continue to improve. In addition, if the difference in cultivation between the caster and the other party was too great, it could not be refined. Instead, it could backfire. However, what made Lin Feng the happiest was the system reward after completing the mission. Apart from taking in Wang Lin as his disciple and receiving the usual lucky draw chance and 500 exchange points, there was also a special prize for completing the main mission. The special prize was a mysterious box with a question mark on it. However, Lin Feng noticed that there was a difference between this and the mysterious box in his lucky draw system. In the lucky draw system, the mysterious box that was the grand prize was black. However, this main mission reward box in front of him was silver. It looked much more advanced. Lin Feng did not hesitate to open the box. After taking a look, his eyes immediately popped out, and he could not pull them out of the box. This thing, hiss. Lin Feng came back to his senses after a long time. He took a deep breath and felt that his brain was not enough. Master, master! Wang Lin saw that his master seemed to be thinking about something. He did not want to disturb him, but he was afraid of delaying his master's business. Lin Feng woke up and turned to look at Wang Lin. What's the matter? Wang Lin held a sparkling crystal in his hand. I can see that this crystal has been flashing non-stop. Lin Feng's eyes narrowed. That was a sound transmission crystal. Could it be that something happened to the 3 of them? He crushed the crystal and Zhu Yi's voice came from inside. Master, we met people from the Yu family. They might have recognized junior brother. We are trying our best to get rid of them. Eldest senior brother was worried that we would disturb Master's seclusion, so he did not inform you. However, this disciple was afraid that something might happen, so I specially reported it to Master. Lin Feng took a deep breath and raised his hand to put away the black cloud flag that enveloped the valley. Then, he gently waved the flag. As the black light flowed, he and Wang Lin were swept up together. Let's go! You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.